Good evening, squad. It's been a while. A little longer than I would have liked, but hey, we're here now. Lady Lay, thank you for that 20-month resub. Drazoth, thank you for that 17-month resub. Thank you for getting me into this game and for just being awesome. Well, thank you. I'm glad you're here. If you're unaware, I've changed the stream schedule. I'm late for tonight's stream, but that's just bad timing on my part. But we are going to be doing 3 streams a week now. We're going to do Thursday night, Friday night between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. Pacific time, and then Sunday mornings are going to retain at their 10 a.m. start point. They are decreased by an hour because the 4 hours that I was trying to go for didn't work super well. So I'm going to go with the 3. Kavina, thank you for that 17-month resub. My sub can almost vote in dog years. Evlog, thank you for that 428-bit cheer. So we're going to continue on with 428 in the evenings. I think we'll continue to do the longest 5 minutes for Sundays for now. Because while I don't think that game is amazing, it's still interesting to me. So I'm going to keep going with it. I did not have a chance to rewatch the last VOD for 428, so I only kind of remember what happened. So I'm gonna be possibly a little lost in our visual novel for the first bit while I try to remember things. They are up on YouTube, though, if you need to catch up and you want to see like the back stuff. You can just put that link in the chat there. eBlock, thank you for resubscribing for that 6-month resub. Let's see. I don't even remember the last time I streamed. I know I streamed like something else, like Piku Niku or Dance of Fire and Ice. Ice and Fire? One of those two. So yeah. Ah, good. It's catching up. We're gonna go back into this game. For now, we're going to play that, and I think that's basically all I've got to say going forward right now. There's... Yep, no, if we went over the stream schedule change. That has to do with me trying to change around stuff in my life to work better, for a better work-life balance, which I don't know if it'll work yet. I'm in test phase. Right, I forgot how loud the sound effects get. So we just got Maria outside of that. She's got her necklace now. I remember that. Yeah, that's cool. I think we're on a brand new chapter is where we left this. Yeah, now we're sticking with Maria because right now she's kind of my favorite character. The sales clerk continues to stare at me. Oh right, we just got the necklace, we just went back to that shop, and sales clerk I think helped us get the outfit off. You know, you look really familiar, he says. Huh? Really? I perk up at that. Maybe I can find out something about who I am. Yeah, you totally look like some pop singer or TV personality. I just can't remember who. Oh, that's what you meant. My shoulders slump in disappointment. Look, if you're trying to flatter me, how about a discount on the necklace? Sure, okay, I mean, it's just something I picked up off the side of the road. The sales clerk stammers for a moment. Yes, it turns out this was mine all along for some reason. Oh no, it's gonna be something really dumb, like it contains the cure or the blood samples or whatever's going on in Dr. McDoctorface's timeline. Bit Noir, hey, thank you for that 6-month resub. Okay, how about I take off 10,000? 30,000 and it's yours. You mean it? That perks me right back up. Guess I'm easy to please. Oh good, time for a fun fact. Fun fact, easy to please. Get your mind out of the gutter, that's not what she means and you know it. Thanks, game. It's been a while. I missed you. Sure, you look like you need to buy some new clothes too. He points to my sweater. Oh, it's ripped. There's a tiny tear in the left shoulder. Oh, there is. It's like right here. Barely. Jude, you're a jerk. So, what do you want to do about that cat? Sale clerk adds. Want me to dispose of it for you? He gestures at my costume with his jaw. Oh, right. What should I do? I feel a little guilty about asking him to go out of his way for me more than he already has. Maybe I should deal with it myself. He obviously wants to help me. May as well have him get rid of the costume, too. Do I want to get rid of the costume, or do I want him to get rid of the costume? If I get rid of the costume, that might make me go somewhere different than if I don't. Might make him go somewhere different. I don't know. Let's deal with our own problems. I feel a little guilty about having him go out of his way for me more than he already has. Maybe I should just deal with it myself. He looks a bit disappointed when I tell him that. Now I have my henshin item. I can transform back into Sailor Mars. I mean, I buy the necklace for 30,000 yen and I leave the knickknack shop hauling the costume with me. In this convenient piece of cloth. But as I walk along, I start regretting my decision. I can't find a good place to throw the cat outfit away. Finally, I spot a convenience store that looks like it'll do just fine. One of the employees is out front cleaning up the trash can. Several large garbage bags line the side of the road. Perfect. Maybe I can have him toss out the costume along with everything else. Oh, excuse me. So I have this old cat suit here. I figure it can't hurt to ask. Yeah, I know. Kitty Kibitzer has resubscribed for 16 months in a row. Saying, oh, a button to push? Thanks, Kitty Kibitzer. The shop boy takes the costume from me. Fun fact, shop boy. Taku Okado, 22-year-old getting by on part-time employment. Recently, after a number of employees quit in rapid succession, the owner hurriedly took on several new hires. But for some reason, instead of everyone chipping in on the cleaning, Okado always winds up stuck doing it. You here to throw this thing out? I got it. He sounds wholly unsurprised. He accepts it so blithely that I actually feel bad. It's been like this all morning, he says. I don't even care anymore. Just throw away what you need and be on your way, I guess. It's been like what all morning? Oh, right. I think, Red Ranger threw trash at him and told him to throw it out. I believe that happened in a previous thing. I can't remember his name. Akio? I'll find out later. I'm out here cleaning and people keep dumping trash on me. First it was this couple that up and threw a garbage bag at me. Fun fact. Yeah, it's Achi. Achi Endo and Hitomi Osawa. The two have just run into a girl called Kanan. Kananen? After that, some homeless-looking guy came by and took off all his clothes and left. This would be Detective Yuji Sasayama from the Shibuya precinct. At that moment, Sasayama is searching for a costume for his next disguise. I wonder if he uses the cat outfit. I hope that happens. I hope he's in it for a long time. Gee, Dwarf, hey, thank you for that resub. Cheers, citizens of the Cafe Lunar. Oh yeah, I gotta change that still. I'm probably gonna go with that name. I got a long list of things I gotta do to my Twitch channel. Like just now, some chubby girl tossed out some empty cardboard boxes and a bunch of empty bottles. That must have been Cheery. She was probably drinking the burning hammer while she was walking along. Oh, that seems like not a good decision. So when you came by just now with this thing, I knew right away. Yep, this again. I'm sorry. It's alright. 3 times, 4 times, what's the difference? He flashes a bright smile, but it's clearly insincere. Then he looks at me more closely. Huh? Aren't you the girlfriend of that dude who threw the bag of garbage at me? What? Nope, not me. Huh, guess I'm misremembering then. Well, anyway, thanks for your help with this. I give the guy a bow. And then I go to the Sega arcade. A few minutes later, near the station, I spot a sort of mall. Checking the directory by the entrance, I see that it's got several clothing shops and an arcade inside. They probably sell shirts in here. I hurry on inside. I don't really see why your shirt has to be replaced. It literally looks like you have a pulled stitch. The interior of the building is like a twisting maze of corridors, all of them overflowing with people. I take the escalator on the second floor, and find myself amidst rows of arcade games. I was trying to get to the fashion area, but I must have gone the wrong way. Excuse me? You haven't seen a lost little girl, have you? I turn to see a miserable-looking middle-aged man peering at me anxiously. Fun fact, this is Teruo Toyama. He got separated from his daughter Hana while running from debt collectors. He's on edge, worried that the men who are after him might take Hana hostage. Have you seen her? Little girl? Like 10 years old? A girl around 10. Have I seen her? What's her name? Hana? Hana Toyama? Hana. Oh, that's a pretty name. So, she's about yay tall. The man launches into a rapid-fire explanation describing the girl's features, hair, and clothes. I got separated from around Center Guy. She likes this place, so I thought maybe she'd come here? Center Guy? That's right, now I remember. This is the guy I bumped into earlier in the afternoon while I was racing around in the cat costume. He got separated from his daughter? Yikes. If she did come here, it's not going to be easy to find her in the midst of these crowds. You sure she didn't go back home, I ask? Well, there's this problem, he mutters. Going home really isn't an option. Well, that's not really an explanation. Sorry to bother you. I'll look around a bit more. Goodbye. Man, I wish when I left rooms I had a slide whistle sound. That sounds great. With that, Hannah's father disappears into the crowd. I leave the arcade and head for the fashion area. I bump into Mr. Yanagishita in a hallway lined with photo booths. Huh? Boss? What's he doing in a place like this? Wait, is he looking for the cards in the... He is, isn't he? He's looking for the scratch and win cards in the magazine for that poor man who can't afford to pay all... Oh, Tara, you're out of the suit! For some reason, he's got a bunch of magazines strewn across the floor. Yeah, finally managed to get it off. Well, that's good. I wish you could have been at the sales demo without your face hidden away. What are you doing? You mentioned something about a creek earlier. You going on a trip? Yeah, I was, but then I remembered something important. I get motion sickness. Something fierce. He sounds kind of proud of himself. So yeah, no trips for me. Heck, I don't even want to think about that now. What about the money you owe, I ask, curious. Well, as it happens, I think I may have found my solution. He brings his hand to his mouth and giggles. Right here. I'm gonna make my debt somebody else's debt a problem, even though that problem already is occurring, but I'm not thinking about that because I don't know all that information as this character. I found a great way to make a killing! Fun fact, make a killing. To earn a lot of money, usually in a very short time, and or with little effort. The phrase originated in the 19th century in reference to hunters, who were paid based on the number of kills they made. He opens the magazine he's holding to reveal a scratch card with a potential 100,000 yen prize. You just gotta scratch off all of these to win 100,000 yen. One of them, not all of them. Yeah, all of them probably makes that not work. All I need is 30 of them, and my debt's squared away. Each magazine I can nab is more money for me. Despite his enthusiasm, his story doesn't quite add up. Are those scratch cards guaranteed to win? No, of course not. It's a lottery sort of thing. Well, then having 30 copies of the magazine is hardly a foolproof solution. Quite the opposite, in fact, but I hold my tongue. Okay then, now that my goddess of fortune Tao is here, let me hurry and scratch these suckers off. Yanagishita begins fervently scratching away at the first card with a coin, which means he hasn't even pulled them out and doesn't realize that he can look at them from the back and actually see the answers, so I guess this is him gonna be unlucky. Yep. Yeah, he doesn't know. Ah, that one's a loser. Maybe the next one. Nope, that's a loser too. Ah, so is this one, and this one. In a spectacular display, he scratches off one losing card after another. Soon, he's down to just one last magazine. You're not a very lucky person, are you? Oh, please don't say that. Mr. Yanagishita looks like he's on the verge of tears. I stare at one of the losing scratch cards. You know, if you could just see the symbols through the card, you'd win for sure, I say jokingly. I hold the card up to the light. When I do, I really can see the symbols through the card. Boss, I think I might have just... Shh! He interrupts me before I can share my shocking discovery. I look at him in surprise. Mr. Yanagishita has gone all pale. Quiet, Tama. Those guys are here. He shoves me into a photo booth. Those guys? The debt collectors, he hisses. They just do not give up. He clutches the sides of his head. Peeking out of the booth, I spot a pair of men who look pretty rough around the edges. Is it those two? Shh, not so loud. The men are looking around, and they're getting closer and closer. What do I do? Oh, what do I do? Mr. Yanagishita starts getting panicky. Tama, what do I do? I have no idea. Oh, this is not good. This is not good, Mr. Yanagishita rumpers. Alright, choices. Getting involved with those thugs strikes me as a bad idea. I pretend not to know Yanagishita and run off. This guy gave me a job, so I kind of owe him. I'll look around for a better place for the two of us to hide. Oh, let's help him out. He did give me a job after all. I don't really think I owe him at all. But he did pay me, which is more than I can say for the guy he's running away from. Unfortunately, I don't really see anywhere that might work. Oh no, we might be safest staying right where we are. Just stay nice and still, we'll be fine, I whisper. Yeah, you're probably right. To be extra quiet, he removed his shoes. The curtain is drawn, so people can't see inside. But just to keep up appearances, we start taking photos as if we're normal customers. I really hope they don't look in here, Mr. Yanagishita murmurs. What will we do if they find us? They won't. Don't worry. Despite my reassurances, it was a while before he stopped trembling. Then he said, You know, Tama, they say that when a man and a woman meet under unusual circumstances, it's easy for them to fall in love. And this is where he gets pushed out of the photo booth for being an idiot. Uh-huh, do they now? They do. Going through an extreme situation together makes you fall for each other. Oh yeah, that's the, what's that one anime call it? There's like a bridge theory. When you're on a bridge that's rickety and it feels like you might fall off. Something like that. I don't remember what show that was. So, wanna go get married? No. Yeah, okay, I'm not having this conversation. Anyway, I think they're gone now. The debt collectors, I mean. Mr. Yanagishita picks out and quickly scans the surrounding area. They're gone? They're gone! Ha 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 ha! So long, losers! His fear has given way to a burst of manic energy. I guess I'm in the clear now. Thanks, Tama. Come on, let's take some commemorative photos. Uh-huh. Huh? To commemorate what exactly? Come on, it'll be fun. Okay, big smile now. Ready? Cheese. Butter. Margarine. Just state your shopping list. After that, I part ways with Mr. Yanagishita and head to a different floor. I don't tell him about being able to see through the scratch cards. The guy really ought to develop a proper work ethic. Alright, cool. Nothing bad happened so far. Hey, come on, wait up! I'm on the escalator on to the 3rd floor when I hear someone shouting. I figure it's someone yelling to their kid, but when I turn to look, I see a young man I don't recognize staring right at me. Where are you going? It's not safe for us to get too separated. What? Who's this weirdo? Is this some new pickup trick or something? I rush up the escalator to get away from the guy, who's totally gonna be Achi. I guess they both came to the mall. That'll be a fun chapter. When I get to the restaurant section of the 4th floor, I'm hit with a sudden pang of hunger and a feeling that I gotta go fast, though that might be just because there's a weird blue thing in the background that looks like a certain hedgehog. Come to think of it, I haven't eaten a thing all day. I'm so hungry, I mutter to myself as I walk around. What should I eat? Then I spot Cheery coming out of a Chinese restaurant. Hey, Cheery! She turns to look at me, confused. Who are you? Oh, it's me. It's Tama. Ah, I thought I recognized that voice, she replies with a nod. Did you eat again, I ask? Well, yeah, but then they kicked me out. Isn't that just terrible? She looks pretty displeased. I came here because they said it was all you can eat, but then they closed shop because they ran out of food. Okay, that joke is not... still kind of just dumb, but... this picture... mood. Big mood. I feel like I need this for Twitter sometime. Ugh. Yes. That'll be for later. Oh wow, you're right. I spot one of the restaurant staff hanging a closed sign on the front door. With tears in their eyes. Man, now my early afternoon snack is ruined. An afternoon snack? At an all-you-can-eat buffet. Can't help but stare at Cheery's midsection, amazed by what that stomach is capable of, and that I have to read these jokes out loud. By the way, have you seen the boss, she asks? I thought he'd finally accepted that he needs to buckle down and work, but he's got some new crazy scheme. Guess the guy's just never gonna learn. I figure nothing good's gonna come from associating with him. I'd be careful if I were you, too. Huh? Done with her little rant, which is not much of a rant, Cheery says goodbye and heads off among the restaurants. Hitomi? Who said that? Were they talking to me? I turn to see a businessman of some sort staring in my direction. Like everyone I've run into today, I don't recognize him. Oh no, but I do. I can't remember, is he the detective with the duck, or is he the businessman who helps her dad? I can't remember now. For some reason, though, I feel relaxed in his presence. Is that you, Hitomi? Hitomi? Could that be my name? Or are you Maria? No. As I fumble for words, the man peers at me with obvious concern. What are you doing in a place like this? We need to get you back home. Your parents are worried sick. Your parents? Did someone file a missing person report while I've been wandering around with amnesia? The man leads the way, and I follow. Maybe this is a bad idea. This is absolutely a bad idea, now that I think about it. That's Tanaka? Okay, cool. It's been a while, but the goofy music makes it sound like... This is probably unsafe, because I do think Tanaka's a problem. We leave the G-Go building, but head down a narrow alleyway. Then the man suddenly stops. I have amnesia, and this person seems like they know who I am, so I followed them. This was a bad idea, like many plots. I feel a jolt of anxiety as I notice something gleaming in his hand. It doesn't matter which of the two you are. You're both in the way. He mutters, almost as if talking to himself. Okay, I think I just got a bad end. Right after that, everything goes dark. Wulp. Mysterious man. After meeting a man who seemed to know her on the restaurant level, our heroine hoped to find out more about her past. Instead, she wound up getting attacked in an alleyway. Ultimately, this all came to pass because she was avoiding the young man who mistook her for Hitomi. If he hadn't come shouting after her, she would have gone on to buy some clothes as she'd originally intended. Alright, so it's Achi's fault. Got it. I mean, I'm assuming. Is that a hammer? I don't know, that was a really quick screen. When she said there was something gleaming there, I actually thought it was going to be a gun. Alright. So, let's go find out what Red Power Ranger is up to then. You must be Hitomi. The girl called Kanan spoke fairly fluent Japanese. Hitomi nodded in response. Yes, that's me. And you're Kanan, right? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. How did you know my name? Did Maria tell you? Yes. She told me about this amazing girl from overseas she made friends with. A thin smile crossed Kanan's lips as the word amazing. Then her look grew sad. Poor Maria. It's my fault that she was abducted. What? Achi and Hitomi gasped in unison. Oh right, we met like a cool girl thing, didn't we? I think it's pronounced Kanan? Kanan. I'm not sure. Usually you gotta pronounce both A's. Always tripped up by the words that have the doubles like that. That's why I have to rescue her, Kanan added. Hold on a second, Hitomi said. What do you mean it's your fault? Kanan replied by jerking her chin in the direction of the main road. Better head that way, she said softly. Someone's coming. But Hitomi didn't back down. Please tell me, why was my sister kidnapped? Several sets of footsteps echoed down the alley. They could see figures approaching now. By the looks of them, accomplices of the man Kanan had taken down earlier. You, two get out of here, she warned. I'll handle this. She stepped out in front of Achi and Hitomi, moving with such confidence that they didn't doubt she could handle the threat. Come to the Jijo building at 3 o'clock, she added quietly, never taking her eyes off the advancing syndicate members. Huh? Hitomi squeaked. I'll explain everything then. The criminals broke into a run. Come on, Hitomi, let's go, Achi hissed. He took her by the hand and bolted from the alleyway. The two didn't slow their pace until they put plenty of distance between themselves and the alleyway. Kanan said this was her fault. What could she have meant by that? The hard run hadn't made Hitomi forget the other girl's startling suggestion. Well, she said she'll meet up with us again later, Achi said. We can ask more about it then. In the meantime, an ache in his belly had made Achi realize he'd been running all day and hadn't eaten since this morning. Fun fact, people on a diet need to be careful about skipping meals. Going too long without proper nourishment can cause the body to store up its energy reserves, leading to weight gain instead of loss. Proper eating habits and proper exercise are key. But then again, this game is not your doctor, and perhaps you should actually consult one when going on a diet. Maybe it's not the best timing, but do you think maybe you want to get some food? I'll be okay. Hitomi's face was racked with emotion. It's only natural, Achi thought. Not only was she afraid for her sister's life, but there were all these people out to kill her too. And with this Kanan girl suddenly showing up, the situation was more confusing than ever. Still, they might as well address the few problems they could control. There was a fast food joint nearby. Let's go in there, Achi said. You might not be hungry, but you should still make sure you stay hydrated. Hitomi shook her head, but her wan face? her wan face. I don't understand that practically radiated exhaustion. Wan. Wan. Adjective. Of a person's complexion or appearance, pale and giving the impression of illness or exhaustion. Pale, weak, strained smile. Okay. Neat. Not a word I was familiar with. It does basically say that her exhausted face basically radiated exhaustion, though, so I'm not sure that's... Yeah. Come on, we should rest up a little. But there's no rush. If we're going to meet up with Cannon later, it's probably best if we don't just wander aimlessly until then. Never know who we might run into. I guess you're right. The two went into the fast food restaurant together. Then we went to Sweden. Welcome, said the girl at the register with a bright smile. May I take your order? I'll have the spaghetti with meat sauce. How about you, Hitomi? Fun fact. Spaghetti with a sauce made from tomatoes and ground meat, also known as spaghetti bolognese. If you want to sound more Italian, but like Napolitan spaghetti, flavored with ketchup, it is a perennial favorite of Japanese children. Frozen packages at the supermarket for around 200 yen a pop make for a simple and decently tasty microwavable meal that's also easy on the wallet. Uh-huh. I'll just have an iced tea. Hey now, you should probably eat at least a little something. Okay, then I'll have a strawberry parfait. Fun fact, strawberry parfaits are great. A dessert of strawberries topped with ice cream and whipped cream. Hitomi has been so worried about her sister that she hasn't eaten anything since last night, but being with Achi has calmed her nerves a little, and her appetite has returned. Perhaps her reflexive order of a strawberry parfait is a sign that she's not only hungry, but also still a little girl with a sweet tooth at heart? You're making some awfully weird presumptions there, game. I mean, you maybe probably know those assumptions better than I do, but we could just say, hey, strawberry parfait, fun fact, tasty. She sounded a little embarrassed to be ordering a dessert. So yeah, said Ashi, 1 spaghetti and meat sauce and a strawberry parfait, please. Coming right up. The cashier promptly assembled their meal and set it out on a tray. We've got a special contest going on right now, she said. Please check it out if you're interested. The girl handed Ashi a flyer. It read, Iron Stomach Eating Contest. Eat 1,000 scoops of ice cream and win 10 million yen. How did Loading Ready Live get into my video game? Fun fact, Iron Stomach, a competitive eating event held by this establishment backed by Sun TV. The competition has been shared with the entire country over the internet. Many contestants have entered for a shot at the 10 million yen prize, but so far no one has been able to complete the eating challenge. Due to the large number of competitors who suffer from gastrointestinal distress as a result of their efforts, roughly 30 portable toilets have been set up outside the restaurant. 1,000 scoops of ice cream. I hope those are small scoops. Even if those are small scoops, that's a lot of ice cream. What the heck? Achi stared at the flyer as he took a seat at an open table. Oh, you better show me what 1,000 scoops of ice cream looks like if Achi's gonna do this. 1,000 scoops? That's impossible. Oh, okay. What the heck is in? He doesn't believe it. Not what the heck is in. Yeah, sounds easy. Okay, cool. Anyway, let's hurry up and eat. As Achi stuffed his face with spaghetti, he thought back to their encounter with Kanan. The girl had helped them out, sure, but could they really trust her completely? It might be dangerous to meet up with her again. Still, Hitomi needed to know more about what had happened to Maria, and Kanan obviously knew something about that. It looked like they needed to take that risk. My sister really is amazing. Huh? Tomi's quiet words drew Ashi from his ruminations. He paused with a forkful of spaghetti halfway to his mouth, but the spaghetti was clearly also in his mouth. My sister met Kanan while she was on a trip to the Middle East with my father. Hitomi nibbled at her parfait, looking lonesome. Cool. But how does that in particularly make your sister amazing? Oh, it's typical of her is all. She's so dynamic and gun-ho about things. Hitomi explained. Her gaze turned inward. It was just my father and sister who took that trip to the Middle East. I didn't go with them. I guess my mental image of that part of the world is mostly that it's really dangerous. Yeah, I mean, based on what I've seen on the news, that is definitely how that's portrayed. George, hey, thank you for that 17-month resub. 7 months, more months for the 1 year. Quick Google says that your average ice cream scoop is about 1/3 of a cup, 333 cups of ice cream, or about 80 liters. Your average human is apparently about 70 liters. You have to eat more than your size in ice cream for most people. Whoa. I think I would want different flavors to at least change it up. But not like a lot of different flavors. Just like maybe 5. To me, going there seemed like a huge risk, but Maria didn't see it that way. Huh, your sister sounds like a bit of a loose cannon. But if you can't bring yourself to take risks to do things, Hitomi continued, you can't meet new people and have new experiences. I mean, I don't know what my sister's been up to today, but when I find out later that she got amnesia and a strange job wearing a cat suit and got into a street fight thing with a cosplayer fighter thing in one and found a mysterious necklace that I think probably has some weird antidote or virus in it, I'm gonna be amazed by the experiences she had. That's the part I always get hung up on. The risk. I'd never be able to make a friend like Kanon. Achi's mind wandered as he listened to Hitomi talk. Alright, we have a choice to make. She and her sister might be twins, but each of them is still unique. Just what kind of person was Hitomi's sister? He just wanted to sit there and listen to her voice. Okay, well, we're clearly not going with C, because that's just blah. Kavina, hey, thank you for that 100-bit cheer. Hi, Cream! Let's just go with A. It seems safe. Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there, he said. He held up a hand to cut her off. Huh? Hitomi's eyes went wide. Why are you comparing yourself to your sister? I mean, I don't know what it's like to be a twin, but can't you just be yourself? Professor Palmer said the same thing. Achi didn't recognize the name. Oh, sorry. Leyland Palmer. He's my university English professor. He's given me advice on a whole bunch of things. That sounded rather intimate. All sorts of worrying images shot through Achi's mind. So, how old is this teacher of yours? Huh? Like 40 or so, I guess? Great, Achi thought to himself. Another middle-aged guy. His mind filled with another sequence of slightly more upsetting images. Because apparently he's one of those. Oh hey, ain't that Hitomi Osawa? Oh wow, you're right, it totally is. A college-aged couple sitting behind them were talking in hushed, excited tones. Man, she really is a cutie, the young man observed. He made no attempt to hide the fact that he was looking Hitomi over. Hey, hold on, Masa, said the girl. What gives? Fun fact, this character is a first-year student at Midoriyama Academy who works part-time as a delivery driver for Dogen Hut, a noodle shop on Dogenzaka. He's taken the day off work today in order to attempt a dry run of the Iron Stomach eating competition, hoping to strike it rich while his girlfriend looks on. But now that he's eaten 2 parfaits, his stomach isn't feeling well, and he's just gotten back from his 5th trip to the toilet. It sounds like quite the date you went on. Well, I mean, she is Miss Midoriyama, right? Miss Midoriyama? Achi turned to the couple. Hey, did you just say this thing? Achi said nothing, but kept his ears tuned to the couple's conversation. Achi did his best to ignore the couple. Whatever they were talking about couldn't be that important. See, it's not important. Right? Story? did that even matter? And she decided to ignore the couple. But no, he was just too curious. And she turned back to Hitomi. Is that true? He asked, peering intently at her face. Well, yeah. She nodded with an awkward smile. Well, I mean, you are really cute and all, Achi said. Miss Midoriyama, well, I'll be. He nodded to himself as he took it all in. It was Professor Palmer who convinced me to enter the beauty contest, actually, Hitomi said. The beauty contest. The Miss Midoriyama contest at Midoriyama Academy is considered one of the top student beauty pageants in Japan for some reason. Pin-up shots of both Hitomi and Maria have already graced the pages of several magazines. That doesn't sound creepy at all. Talent agencies have also made attempts to scout them, but both girls declined, claiming that they entered the contest just for the memories and that they had no interest in show business. Huh. And she smiled, twisted up a little. He said if I really wanted to change myself, I should try entering. Achi maintained his outward composure, but inside his heart was racing. Tanaka and Palmer, which of them held Hitomi's true affections? Or was she possibly leading on two middle-aged men at the same time? Or is Achi just kind of an idiot? This and more at 11. The more he thought about it, the worse his delusions became. What actually happened, though, is my sister and I both won the prize. Hitomi's words snapped him out of his funk. She sounded disappointed. Huh? They gave out a double prize? Turns out my sister had entered the competition too. She smiled, a self-deprecating smile. Guess twins really do think alike, huh? Hey, Double Schmumble, you still won a prize, right? That's pretty impressive. Nah, they just picked me as an afterthought to my sister, because twins sharing the prize made for a good headline. She looked away sadly. Did they say they picked you as an afterthought? They didn't have to. It was obvious that my sister really won. You can't know that. Maybe she was the afterthought. Come on, you need to believe in yourself. Hitomi just hung her head. But I'm such a terrible person. Suddenly her eyes welled up with tears. I hate myself so much. I can never forgive myself for what I did. Hey, whoa. Achi watched her with trepidation. She looked like she might start bawling at any moment. What's the matter? The night my sister was kidnapped, I was supposed to go to a college party with her. But then all of a sudden she told me not to go. I kept asking her why not, but she just kept insisting I couldn't. Hitomi's face was bleak with regret. We both got mad and I wound up blowing up at her. Okay, I get it. I don't need to go to the party. Fine. I'd just be your little tag-along anyway. Just like in that beauty contest. You couldn't just let me enter that by myself, could you? You always have to be the center of attention. Maria scowled. Fine. The party starts at 7 o'clock. Try not to forget, okay? I was kicking myself as soon as I told her off. My sister isn't the sort of person to tell me what to do or not do. She must have had a reason for not wanting me to go. I was planning on apologizing to her after the party. But then she was abducted, right? Achi polished off the last of his spaghetti. He set down his fork, then wiped his mouth. Hitomi, I get why you're trying so hard to save your sister. And maybe I'm not as tough as that Cannon girl, but I'll stick with you to the end if you'll let me. He tried his best to convey an optimism he didn't really feel. And once we found her and she's safe and sound, you can tell her you're sorry about what you did. What you said. At long last, Hitomi cracked a smile. A short while later, the two arrived outside the Jijo building. They were a little early for their 3 o'clock meet-up with Cannon. They had decided that searching at random for the blue minivan was too risky. It could easily draw the attention of the man with the cane or the foreign kidnappers. Getting information from Cannon seemed like the best next move. Oh hey, Achi said as they waited. You've got a little rip in your top. Hitomi glanced at her shoulder and saw the tear in the fabric. Oh, you're right. When did that happen, I wonder? Must have snagged it on something while we were running, I guess. We've got some time before Cannon gets here. You want to buy some new clothes? Huh? You sure that's a good idea? We'll stick out if we just stand around here waiting. May as well head inside until it's time. Since many celebrities did their shopping at Jijo, there were back entrances for times when the place was crowded. Everyone who frequented the old shopping district knew about them, including Achi and Hitomi. In a pinch, one of those back entrances could be an escape route. With this in mind, the two headed inside. The twins top psychically linked. Yeah, right? It is a little weird. Shibuya Jijo was an entertainment complex featuring a video, arcade, and fashion shops. Fun fact, at the time of this story, Jijo includes not only a fashion mall, but various amusements on its different levels. The second floor features all ages fun with rides, games, and sticker machines, while the third floor sports the latest arcade games for the core gamer. That's also a food court that offers things such as crepes and loaded takoyaki octopus dough balls. Core gamer. The ground floor and two basement levels of the building were designed as an amusement area outfitted with skee ball, claw cranes, fighting games, and the like. The second floor held a mix of photo booths and ladies' wear shops. On the third floor were specialty fashion boutiques, and on the fourth floor were restaurants. Achi and Hitomi took the escalator to the second floor. Hitomi started heading to the shops, but Achi stopped her. Hey, wait up. What's the matter? A dude hanging around a women's clothing store is gonna stand out. I'll wait for you here. There seemed to be nobody but female customers around. If the man with the cane or the kidnappers appeared, Achi figured he would spot them right away. It would be safe for Hitomi to shop on her own for a short while. Alright, Hitomi said. I'll try to make this quick. She began to head out into the sales floor. Poof! A seedy-looking man poked out from beneath the door of a photo booth right at Hitomi's feet. That was a close one, wasn't it, Tama? He said to her. I thought I was dead meat for sure. His tone was oddly cheerful considering what he was saying. Who's this guy? Achi asked. You know? No? The sketchy fellow gave her an ingratiating look. Come on, Tama, don't be like that. Hitomi took an anxious step back. Hey man, knock it off. Achi dragged the guy up to his feet. The clerk behind them was somewhat interested in what was going on, because clearly they were bored. Okay, no need to get all testy. Who is this guy, Tama? He your boyfriend? Boyfriend? Alright, pretend to be the boyfriend, tell him get lost. Pretend to be bashful. I do kind of want him to go away. Goodness. This is like a hard choice, like real life. Fine, nothing like that. No, it's nothing like that, Hitomi said, as she was going to be upfront about it, but she beat him to the punch. Somehow that kind of stung a little. What? So you're not her boyfriend? The guy flashed a broad grin. Hey, listen, you creep. Who the hell are you? Oh, me? The man's face suddenly blanched. Oh, crap. Tama, hold on to this for a bit, will ya? The weirdo shoved a worn-out magazine into Hitomi's hands and then bolted off in a panic. The heck was that all about? Yeah, I wonder why you ran off like that. Achi and Hitomi stared at one another. Well, anyway, Achi said, there are a lot of nut jobs out there, so just be careful, yeah? Okay, if anything happens, I'll give you a shout. Hitomi flashed him an impish grin, then scampered off to the sales floor. As he watched her go, Achi muttered to himself, damn it, why does she have to be so cute? Yep, that's right, her fault. "5 minutes or more passed as Achi waited for Hitomi. He stood by the escalator, almost as if he were keeping guard. Female shoppers began to give him icy stares for being somewhere he probably shouldn't. This sucks. Come on, Hitomi, hurry up and get back here. The longer he waited, the more uncomfortable he felt. How long was she going to take? Then he happened to turn around to see Hitomi riding the escalator up. It looked like she had indeed bought some new clothes. Hey, Hitomi! She didn't seem to hear him. But these are both gonna... I guess don't go after her. Shout a little louder? He decided to shout a bit louder. Hey, come on, wait up! Oh no, that was the wrong thing, wasn't it? Tommy stole a quick back look at him. Where are you going? He called. It's not safe for us to get too separated. Yet she continued her flight toward the upper floors. Did she not realize it was him or something? Achi hurried in pursuit. Darn it. That was probably not the right way to go. Achi followed her, but by the time he reached the top, she was out of sight. This was the restaurant floor, so it was more open than the other levels. Restaurant floor. A floor designated solely for eateries. Typically, this is the topmost floor of a mall building like Jijo. Those who head up here during morning hours will likely find the place deserted. Jijo's restaurant floor features a variety of different cuisines, including Chinese, Italian, creative Japanese food, sushi, tempura, and other delicacies from around the world. I'm not familiar with a cuisine referred to as creative Japanese food. That's different. He hurriedly began to look around. As he wandered, he bumped into a man talking on his cell phone. Ah, sorry, my bad. Achi held up a hand in apology, but the man was too engrossed in his conversation to notice. No, you're not getting it. The lock was undone too. The man startled Achi by suddenly shouting into his phone. You need to consider the risk of getting out. Whatever this guy was talking about, he sure was angry with whoever was on the other end. Maybe fusion cuisine. Ugh. I went to a restaurant once in the place where I grew up, because there was a Japanese fusion cuisine thing that had opened, and from what I could tell, that just meant that they made Japanese food in an unedible fashion. So, yeah. No, fusion cuisine sounds awful to me. Look, I'll figure out what to do about the minivan. You just handle things on your end. Minivan? Achi's interest was piqued, but he needed to find Hitomi before he let anything distract him. Here is a Chinese restaurant. As he scoured the 4th floor, he came across a Chinese buffet and noticed the large windows in its outer walls. You could see a lot of Shibuya through those windows. Maybe Hitomi had decided to look for the minivan from up here. One of the restaurant employees came rushing up as Achi headed inside. Sir, I'm sorry, she said. Sir, you have to forgive the inconvenience. We're not open to the public right now. Not at the moment, I mean. The employee's voice was oddly subdued for some reason. Masai Takai. Taki? A part-time staffer at Imabiki Chinese restaurant. Her boss chewed her out pretty bad for showing up at work with her nails manicured black. She was ordered to go to the restroom and scrub them clean, but no amount of nail polish remover was able to do the trick, so she's been dealing with her boss's wrath all day long. I don't know why this video is here. It's... okay, sure. Why not? Achi asked. Well, you see, one of our other customers ate all of our food. They ate all of it. Looking around, Achi saw a chubby young woman camped out at a table by one of the windows. You know what? I've decided she's just Goku at this point, because she's awesome. Set out before her was a veritable mountain of plates. What I'm trying to say, sir, is that we're closed for the rest of the day. Oh, but I'm with her, actually, Achi lied. Without waiting for a reply, he barged into the restaurant. He took a quick look around. There was no sign of Hitomi. Before leaving through, he figured he'd at least take a look out the windows. Huge glass panes looked out onto the Dogenzaka. He had a decent view of the roads, but he didn't spot a blue minivan. And he dropped his gaze to the sidewalk outside the building. Oh! He let out a tiny gasp. Even from 4 stories up, there was no mistaking what he saw. A group of black-clad foreign men had gathered outside the building. Had they figured out that he and Hitomi were inside? He needed to find her, and fast. He raced out of the restaurant, alert for trouble. Alright then. Go to the time chart. Yeah, the bad end is still there. What were the choices here? Let's take this again. He decided to go after her. Had she forgotten where he was waiting for her? She stayed on the escalator, heading up toward the top floor. As she followed her, by the time he reached the top, she was out of sight. This is the restaurant floor, so it was more open than the other levels. Okay, so it looks like everything else is gonna happen the same. It's just she didn't notice him. So that should result in the bad end going away. Yep, cool. After that, I part ways with Mr. Yanagishita and head to a different floor. I don't tell him about being able to see through the scratch cards, though. Because, you know, honestly. The third floor is packed with young girls. I spot a shirt that catches my eye and head to the fitting room to try it on. There I realize there's something in my pocket. Something I must have been carrying around for a while. It's a photo. A photo of a white man. Who's this guy? I can't quite tell if I recognize him or not. This man. Huh? Dangerous. I hear someone's voice inside my head. Stay away from him. Flashback. Flashes of memory flicker in my mind. I see a girl standing before me. I can't quite recall her face, but I get the impression she's someone very important. She speaks to me. Ah, yeah, it's Kanan. This man is dangerous. Stay away from him. That's the FBI man, isn't it? That's all. Then I snap back to my senses. It feels like I was right on the cusp of remembering something critical. At any rate, it seems that there's some connection between me and the man in the photo. Try as I might, though, I can't recall anything more than that. I try on the shirt I picked out. Yeah, that looks good. I decide to buy it and have the store toss out my torn sweater for me. Because it is utter trash right now. Oh, poor sweater. As I'm about to go down the escalator, a young man strides up to me as if I'm an old friend. So that's gonna be our jump point. There you are. I thought we were gonna meet on the second floor. Going to meet? What's this guy talking about? I've never seen him before. Ah, well, anyway. Come on, we have to go to hide. Hide? Why do we need to do that? Hide? Why? Because those guys might have found us? They're outside. He grabs my hand and I yank it away. Hey, come on, what gives? Is this some new pickup trick or something? Whatever it is, it's way too aggressive. I get the heck out of there. Hey, hey! The guy keeps shouting, but I ignore him and try to slip away into the crowd. When I look back, though, I see that he's still following me. What do I do? Choices. Head to another floor. Hide someplace where there are fewer people. I'm afraid that if I go with the fewer people thing, I feel like one of these is going to end up with her in the alleyway again. Head to another floor. I hurry toward the bank of elevators. Well, if it isn't Tao, what a coincidence. Coinky-dink. It's Yanagishita again. I try to walk on by like I don't notice him, but it's already too late. Huh? Hey, where'd your boyfriend go? Boyfriend? I have no clue what he's talking about. Anyway, perfect timing. Can you give me back that magazine? Nothing you're saying is making any sense. I peer at him in confusion. Once again, Yanagishita looks like he might start to cry. Don't tease me like this. I did give it to you, right? No, you didn't give me anything. I get it. You wanted that 100,000 yen all to yourself. So now you're playing dumb. Is that it? No, I honestly have no idea what this is all about. By now he's all worked up and getting red in the face. Twin shenanigans. Look, you might have amnesia, but that excuse ain't gonna fly with me. The amnesia has nothing to do with it. He doesn't seem to want to believe me no matter what I say. Come on, hurry up and just give it back. Otherwise I'm gonna start bawling here real loud. He's gonna cry? Seriously? This guy's a real piece of work. Well, what's it gonna be? You gonna make a grown man cry? It would certainly be pretty embarrassing if he starts sobbing now. But I can't exactly give him back a magazine I never had. The elevator door's open. Well, if it isn't our little entrepreneur, we've been looking for you. It's the two thugs from before, and there's no avoiding them this time. Fun fact, their names are Asio Ozu and his underling, Yutaro Sagawa, members of the Tenryugumi Yakuza Syndicate. Ozu is quite frightening when angry. His name is Ozu the Ogre, but despite his strong emotions, he is very logic-driven. Sagawa is the archetypical punk who likes to get into scuffles, but he's also a really good cook. Yipes! The men drag Mr. Yanagishita into the elevator. Save me, Tama! He grabs hold of my hand. Hey, let go of me! Great, now I'm in the elevator too and the doors are shutting. Whoops. Now then, Mr. Yanagishita says to the bald-headed man, there's nowhere else to run. His tone is polite, but also pretty foreboding. Whoa, wait, just hold on, I can get you the money. I'm just about to get loads of it. Enough of your poppycock, snarls the younger guy. Fun fact, poppycock, balderdash, claptrap, straight up nonsense, taken from the Dutch papekoek, meaning soft dung. Oh, it's a poop joke. I really mean it this time. Please, you have to believe me. I can pay you 100,000 right now. 100,000? You're really carrying around that much? Asks the bald man. No, not me, the girl. Oh, thanks for dragging me into this. The men turn an eye to me in unison. She's holding on to something that's worth 100,000 yen. What? The sudden turn into the conversation has me all flustered. Tama, please, Yanagishita says. Just hand it over. I already told you I don't know what you're talking about. The elevator stops at the first floor and the door opens. Oh! Standing on the other side of the doors is the guy I ran into earlier, Hannah's father. The bald-headed man snarls. Toyama! I'll just get the next one. Goodbye! Hannah's father bolts like a startled hare. The bald man and his crony stare after him. Now's my chance, Yanagishita hisses. He darts out of the elevator and makes a run for it. Hey, after him, shouts the bald man. After who? Him? Or him? Just start with Toyama. The two thugs race after Hana's father. They've left me all by myself. I'm worried enough to think about going after them, but before too long I've lost sight of them all. For a long time I just stand there, dumbfounded like a hurricane victim lingering in the aftermath. Ugh, what a day this has been. When I finally get my wits about me, I realize I'm pretty hungry. That's right, I didn't really get to eat lunch. I head for the 4th floor, where the restaurants are. Since I really didn't want to run into Yanagishita and those other guys again, I decided to take the escalator. As I'm riding it up, I hear a commotion coming from the floor below. It's a man's voice shouting angrily, "Out of my way, come on!" I pay the outburst no heed and let the escalator take me up. When I arrive at the 4th floor restaurant section, the sign for a Chinese buffet catches my eye. I mean, there's a whole slew of restaurants up here, but for some reason everyone's really got a specific kind of food they want right now. Did you know, fun fact, buffet is a style of dining where guests serve themselves freely from an array of prepared foods, taking as much of each as they want. Many hotels and restaurants tend to hold buffets at lunchtime or for brunch. Sometimes, however, this just ends up being a kind of cruel trap with crowded lines, making it take forever for you to even get near the food. Yamabiki Chinese restaurant. The name means something along the lines of fire of morning. Okay. I guess fire is important for cooking, but that's kind of an unsettling thing to call an eatery. Oh well, I guess the name doesn't really matter. I'm in a mood to straight up devour some Chinese food, though. When I go to enter, though, I'm stopped by one of the employees. This character is my favorite. This employee is my favorite character. They are fantastic in their pictures. I'm sorry, miss. I'm afraid we're not accepting any more customers. I mean, we're not really open. Not just now. She sounds a little bewildered by her own words. Why not? Well, you see, one of our other customers ate all of the food. Someone ate an entire restaurant out of food? Is that possible? What I'm trying to say, miss, is that we're closed. Forever. Oh, go figure. Looks like Mr. Yanagishita's bad luck has rubbed off on me. I guess I'll have to look for another restaurant, too. Hold up. Who's that kid? Lying wildly across the seats in the waiting area at the front of the restaurant is a young girl. Is this the girl that dismal-looking fellow has been searching for? She looks so sad. It makes my heart ache. Can't just leave her here all alone. Excuse me, is your name Hana? She looks wary at the question. Your father's been looking for you, I say. Hana ignores me and just stares up at the ceiling. Hey, how about we try to find your dad together? I coax the girl into getting up. Then I call out to the restaurant staffer. She's fantastic. Excuse me, where should I go to ask them to put an announcement on the PA system? I don't know. Maybe the 1st floor. The security office? Right, down we go. I take Hana with me and we get on one of the elevators together. Do you know my father? And his tone is pretty brusque. Well, I don't really know him exactly. Then are you a debt collector? I laugh and shake my head. Would a debt collector be wearing an outfit like this? Hana lets out a deep sigh. Kind of. So you're just kind of butting in then. Well, yeah, I guess so. Can't help but grin sheepishly. I feel like something about sad little Hana is stirring some of my lost memories. If I just came out and told her that, though, she'd probably think I was a total weirdo. So I decide to say something else. I guess I just get bored. Let's go with the guess I'm just sort of person who can't ignore someone in trouble line. You're weird. Hana looks away from me. I want employee to come back. When I get to the security office, I hear voices coming from inside. I wonder what they're talking about. I peek in through the crack of the door and see a man with a cane speaking with a security guard. Oh, well that's not good. Maria doesn't know that yet. I don't know why Sadako from The Ring is working in a Chinese restaurant, but I'm glad she is. I mean, it could also be that girl from Kimi ni Todake. I think her name was actually Sawako. People call her Sadako? Yeah. It's good either way. It's all good headcanon. How many exits are there that lead outside? There's the main entrance on the first floor along with the 2 side entrances. Also, there's one down on the first basement level and another in the second basement. The security guard spoke with polite precision. I see, says the man with the cane. I need you to shutter all exits except for the main entrance right away. Understood, sir. We're going to assume you told us some reasons earlier. Ding dong. Attention all shoppers. The announcement comes over in the loudspeaker. Due to maintenance, all first floor entrances other than the main entrance have been closed. We apologize for the inconvenience. Customers wishing to leave, please use the main entrance on the first floor. I'm not sure what just happened, but it sounds like the main entrance is now the only way out. Come on, I say, let's have them make an announcement for us. But when I turn around, Hannah is gone. She must have run off while I was distracted. Looky here, if it ain't the little cutie again. The 2 thugs that were after Yanagishita come strolling towards me. Wow, you're a speedy one, huh? Says the bald man. Weren't you downstairs just now? Ah. They must run into her sister. Did you change your clothes too? He looks me over, seeming impressed. Hey, hold on. Let me see your face. The younger man grabs me by the wrist. You know, Yanagishita, yeah? Go on, give him a quick little call for us. He gives me a sharp yank. Let go of me, can it, girlie? Just give the man a call and we're all good. I've nothing to do with that guy. Do it now! These guys aren't even listening to me. Now I'm pretty pissed off. I said, I have nothing to do with that guy. I whipped my man-handled arm in a wide arc and sent the younger man flying into a stack of boxes. Guess he must not have been expecting that. He hits hard. The impact knocks him out cold. Whoa, who the heck are you? The bald man asks, his eyes wide. Shut up. You're next. Ugh. I flash a winning grin. He gathers up his fallen friend and drags him away as fast as he can go. Okay, that was pretty strange. Just like when I was fighting Miku, my body seems to know how to pull off all these moves instinctively. The heck did we ever get kidnapped? I don't know. I think she got away right away, given that she, was in a cat outfit for most of this story. Am I a martial artist, maybe? Anyway, I've got to find Hannah. I mean, my headcanon is just that she's Sailor Mars. Easier said than done. I wander around the building, but I don't see any sign of the girl. Maybe she went back home? Eventually, I slump down on a bench in a corner. I wish I could go home too, I mutter to myself. Something cold presses against my neck. What? Is that what I think it is? Make a scene and I'll slit your throat. Oh no, it is a knife. 2 foreign men grab me by the arms from either side. In that moment, fragmentary memories flood through my mind. Kavita, hey, thank you for that 30-bit cheer. Destroy the patriarchy. Or those 2 thugs anyway. I'm on a street. Looks like someplace in the Middle East. I'm being dragged along by several men. I'm too scared to speak. There are people on the street, market vendors, but none of them seem willing to get involved. The men drag me into some back alley. Help me. Please, somebody help me. I'm being abducted. And then the Jedi show up. A dark silhouette drops down in front of me. The figure brandishes a knife, threatening it. The blade moves with dazzling speed. My captors are all down in mere moments. Who is this? Who came to save me? I try my utmost to drag my memories to the surface. It's a girl. That's right, I'm certain of that much. I don't remember her face, but it's a girl younger than me. Walk faster. The angry hiss in my ear snaps me out of my flashback. What was that memory just now? I'm more concerned about the girl who saved me than I am about the men who have captured me now. The two thugs march me along, still holding me by the arms. Can't believe she was in place like that. Yeah, talk about giving us the runaround. Can't figure out what they're talking about. A place like what? Giving them the runaround? Do you know me? The two men look at each other. Wait, are you the other one? One of them peers closely into my face. What are you talking about? What do you mean a place like... Oh, this is totally bad ending music. I stop as a sudden idea comes to me. Hold on. Are you talking about that storehouse? The men look utterly confused. What are you talking about? One of them asks. Explain that I've lost my memory. This seems to make them pretty anxious. We gotta report this. One of the men takes out his cell phone and makes a call. He informs whoever's on the other end that I've lost my memory. I have no idea what's going on. Based on what I can follow from the conversation, though, it seems that these were the people who had put me in that storehouse. But why had they done that? One of these guys asked if I was the other one. What could that possibly mean? Could it be? Did they abduct me because they mistook me for someone else? If so, who? The more I try to think, the more muddy this all gets. Calm down. Just calm down. Let's think of what we know. I've been cloned. What I do know for sure is that I woke up inside that storehouse, and evidently I took a blow to the head, and that's the cause of my amnesia. Hold on, that's strange. These people had kidnapped me before. Why wasn't the storehouse locked? Seems pretty sloppy if they wanted to keep someone confined. What could all this possibly mean? It's no use. I haven't the foggiest. None of this makes any sense at all. Let go of her. I craned my neck to see who spoke. It's the man with the cane who was at the security office. Who the hell are you? One of my captors barks. I said let her go. Did you not hear? The man with the cane pulls a gun from his suit pocket. Get lost. This isn't worth dying over. The two men take a few steps back and then bolt out of the alleyway. Who are you? My voice trembles slightly. Guess he's not here. The man takes a quick look around. He? Do you mean Mr. Yanagishita? All that matters is that he's not here. Gun in hand, the man slowly approaches. Hitomi Osawa? I know you've done nothing wrong. What? I feel a jolt of surprise at the name. Hitomi Osawa? Is that my name? His face, a mask of stone. The man points the gun right at my head. Please, no hard feelings. Oh, not a bad end. Well then. Oh, I see. I wasn't expecting us to get a to be continued there. Yeah, not a bad end yet. Alright, well, we got Maria all the way. Hachi had a keep out thing, which I think is actually in Maria's timeline. Let's go see what the doctor's up to. I do not want others intruding into my domain. Accordingly, I do not intrude on others. That is how I've lived my life. That is how I've forged my sense of calm. But something has begun to drive me mad. The boundaries between myself and others have started to collapse. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I will become something other than myself. And that is one thing I fear I could never bear. Oh no, you don't. Kajiwara tackled Tanaka as he strode toward the door. Kitty Fitzer, thank you for the cheer for not a bad end. The two men collapsed in a heap in the front entryway. Hey, Tanaka barked. What are you doing? Hold still. Kajiwara ran his bug tracker over Tanaka's body. It began beeping loudly. Aha! Kajiwara pulled off Tanaka's necktie clip. It's a listening device. Tanaka's face went pale. Where did you get this? Kajiwara demanded. Well... Tanaka trailed off into silence. I gave it to him. It was I who had appeared on the second floor landing. Well, I'm glad Kajiwara finally did something useful other than scaring people with rubber duckies and bananas. Night, Drazoth. You were listening in? Osawa asked brokenly. Ma'am, Kajiwara said. Would you mind explaining this? For once, she seemed deadly serious. I was barely able to hear a thing. That's what I get for going with something so cheap. I held out a dangling earpiece. When and where did you get that? Earlier today, when I left to do some shopping. And why did you plant a listening device on Mr. Tanaka? That's what I want to know, Tanaka chimed in. Why would you do this, Mrs. Osawa? He was trembling. You were outside emailing someone earlier, weren't you, Mr. Tanaka? I saw you from the window. Emailing? Kajiwara looked into Tanaka's face. I nodded. He came back into the house shortly afterward, and I asked him where he'd gone. And what do you think he said, She was practically gloating. Playing to her little audience, she began stalking down the stairs. He said he'd gone to check on something at the lab, despite the fact that he was out in the yard there fiddling with his phone the whole time. So I figured if I bugged him, he might show his true colors. And... enough! Osawa cut his wife off. Tanaka had been emailing Hitomi, of course, but he couldn't reveal that now. I think I get what happened here, Kajiwara interposed. He folded his arms. Your wife thought Mr. Tanaka was in contact with the kidnappers, and so she planted a listening device on him. The detective peered at Tanaka. Who are you emailing, sir? Yes, that's right, I chirped. Show us your phone, Mr. Tanaka. Let's see what you were really up to. Or is there some reason you don't want to show us? Osawa started to panic. If the police checked that cell phone, they'd find the emails from Hitomi, and if the kidnappers somehow found out about that, Maria's life would be in danger. But I was still relentlessly advancing on Tanaka. Stop this! Darling? She turned to him in surprise as a very loud clock noise entered. Tanaka was sending emails on my behalf, Osawa said. I asked him to do it. And just who was he emailing? It was... He needed to think of a lie. Fast. I asked him to email me! Someone from work. Pretty Honey. The newest cutie honey anime series. Someone from work? But sir, Kajiwara was quick to butt in. Don't you have a computer in your study? Couldn't you have sent the emails yourself? The detective had to choose now, of all times, to actually be perceptive. I do, but my computer has been having problems sending email. I'm not sure what the issue was. Look, the point is, there's no reason to worry about Tanaka's emails. There just isn't. I'm telling you. It was a lame excuse, but he just had to keep pressing it. Anyway, I think we can say we're done here, Osawa said. He opened the front door. Now, if you don't mind, I've asked Tanaka to run some errands for me. Tanaka gave him a quick bow and headed out the door. Hey, wait! I started to go after him. Just calm down, Osawa barred the way. There's no way he's connected to the kidnappers. Can't you see that? His voice cracked, and he shuddered at a sudden rush of emotion. There, sir, Kajiwara said consolingly. She's just deeply worried about your daughter. Yeah, right. I turned around and marched back upstairs. But still, if she is that worried, giving a tie clip as a gift seems a bit... Fun fact, a tie clip, it's a clothing accessory meant to hold someone's their necktie in place. In the old days, they were a quintessential part of the salaryman's outfit, along with cufflinks and the company badge. Recently, tie clips have come back into vogue with some older men, now more frequently referred to as tie bars. Kajiwara's muttering trailed off. What do you mean? Osawa asked. Nothing. Not important. The detective waved a hand dismissively, but there had been a definite note of suspicion in his voice. Kajiwara's so creepy. Well, back to work. Kajiwara headed back into the living room. Osawa returned to his study and sat in front of his computer. He had no desire to be in the presence of the detectives who now crowded his living room. The Awa Kamiki fan forum for people 40 and over was still open on his monitor. He reloaded the page and saw that his earlier thread had gotten a reply. It was from Pretty Honey, a regular contributor to Osawa's threads. Fun fact, Pretty Honey is the username of someone who posts regularly on the Awa Kamiki fan forum, seems to know a lot about agriculture and the police, as evidenced by statements such as, if the world were a farm with 100 people, as well as a tendency to post to another site called the 87th Precinct Telecommunity. Incidentally, Shinya Kano's girlfriend, Rumi, also posts to the 87th Precinct Telecommunity from time to time. She has had several massive arguments with Pretty Honey there, with the later criticizing the police for not doing their job, while Rumi insists that police work is very difficult and deserves more credit. Jump point to Kano. I'm opposed to the idea of Aya Kamiki expanding into America. Table flippy emoji without the table flip. She should be able to enjoy the success she's earned in Japan without having to struggle overseas. Some other emoji that involves being proud. Aya has done so much for us. I'd like her to keep supporting Japan forever. Happy emoji face. The message was festooned with the sort of emoticons that a young girl might use. Pretty Honey claimed to be a 19-year-old female college student. Although the community was meant for Aya Kamiki fans 40 and over, the settings allowed anyone to post there. The only young woman among members, however, was Pretty Honey. The thread continued. By the way, have you tried the Aya fortune teller yet? There's a link below! Excited emoji with asterisks. Fortune telling, huh? Fun fact, fortune telling is the practice of determining a person's future luck or life events using cards, horoscopes, other methods of divination. Most people believe such prognostication when it foretells something good, and don't believe it when the outlook is bad. That's about as much faith in fortune telling as someone should have. Here's a photo. Wow, fortune telling is intense. I really should have had shades for that explosion. Osawa stared. Should he ask whether Maria was safe? If it gave him a good answer, he'd believe it. If it was a bad answer, he wouldn't. It might be worth a shot just for the peace of mind it'd bring. He clicked the link, and the Aya fortune teller page came up. It asked you to enter your birth date and sex, and then Aya Kamiki would offer her advice. Osawa followed the instructions, entering date of birth, selecting male, then clicking next. A few seconds later, his fortune was displayed. You're a very work-minded person. He hoped for some insight on Maria, but instead it was just a write-up about his personality. You'd never be able to get by without the devoted support of those around you, but you probably don't realize that, do you? It's a big mistake to think you can get through all of life's challenges on your own. There's nothing cool about being ignorant. If you don't get over your indifference to the world might start to harbor quite a grudge. Find a way to connect more deeply with the people around you and start living a better life before it's too late. Just do that and you're sure to have a wonderful future ahead. Famous people who got your result? Shinyosuke Oare, playwright, the head of the Wandering Angels Theater Troupe. He has an interview appointment with Minoru Minorikawa at 2:30 this afternoon. Oh, right. This is the weird storyline we keep having about this theater troupe in the notes. Osawa couldn't help but feel that the advice was painfully appropriate. He went back to the forum and replied to Pretty Honey. Nice to hear from you again, Pretty Honey. I definitely know how you feel about Iowa Kamiki being ours. Still, I'm confident she's got what it takes to persevere and succeed in America. And if she does fail, well, all of us in Japan will be here to welcome her back all the same. Guess this voyage to America I've concocted just has me a little worked up. Sad emoji. Osawa clicked post and leaned back in his chair. Mr. Osawa! Mr. Osawa! It was Kajiwara shouting from outside the door. First the toilet, then lunch. What is it now? There's been a development in the case. Please join us in the living room. We have important matters to discuss. Kajiwara had his detective face on. When Osawa entered the living room, I was already there, looking stern and solemn. This is quite the picture. I really dig the framing of it. Now that you're both here, Kajiwara said, allow me to share what we know. We've identified a location that appears to be the Syndicate's hideout. You have? What about Maria? Is she there? Osawa exclaimed. We still haven't been able to ascertain whether your daughter is safe. Well then, what were these important matters you needed to discuss? Osawa felt a wave of anxiety rush through him. The hideout in question is a condominium in Hiru, and it's owned by... By whom? Mr. Osawa, please calm down. Tell me. Go on with it. Kajiwara took a deep breath. The residence is owned by Mamoru Tanaka. Osawa was speechless. He couldn't process what he was hearing. Tanaka? Lies, I shrieked. Just what are you implying? That Mr. Tanaka is the kidnapper? Where's your proof? With all due respect, ma'am, weren't you suspicious of Mr. Tanaka yourself? Well, I suppose, but... the listening device was in a tie clip, which means she gave him a tie clip. Which is... Yep. Alright. You did go so far as to stick a listening device on him. Flustered, I withdrew into a vacant silence. Ah! The telephone. The sudden ringing of the phone startled everyone in the room. Was that Tanaka? No, couldn't be. These sound effects are all so loud. The phone was wiretapped. The detective wearing the headset nodded to Kajiwara, who in turn motioned for Osawa to pick it up. Hello? He said cautiously. Hello? Is this the home of Maria Osawa? The voice was not Tanaka's. Osawa didn't recognize it, but the veil of despair that hung before him thinned slightly. Is this the home of Hitomi Osawa? This time the man on the phone used Hitomi's name instead. Yes, that's right. The caller immediately hung up. As Osawa stood there, dumbstruck, Kajiwara gently took the receiver and hung up the phone. One of the detectives addressed Kajiwara. We've traced the source of the call to a cell phone. Also, we've pinpointed the base station used. Informed Director Kuze so he can prepare a team just in case. Just in case? Osawa asked. What do you mean by that? Kajiwara frowned slightly. Just because this is a kidnapping case doesn't mean that every phone call comes from the kidnapper. We'll look into it, of course, but... I see. Besides, right now confirming Mr. Tanaka's whereabouts takes priority. Don't you agree? Osawa nodded. Someone should call him, the detective added. I'll do it. I got out her cell phone and dialed up Tanaka. Where was Mr. Tanaka headed? Kajiwara asked. He eyed Osawa keenly. Do I actually know? Was I sending him on errands or was I letting him? I don't think I actually know. I'm gonna say I don't know. I don't actually know. Even leaving out the part about Hitomi, that was still the truth. If Tanaka was behind the kidnapping, Osawa knew he ought to tell the police about the blue minivan and the emails from his daughter. But part of him still trusted Tanaka deep down, and he couldn't bring himself to reveal it all. We have investigators en route to Tanaka's condominium, Kajiwara said. Let's wait for them to report in. We have investigators. Okay, that happened twice. On the far side of the room, I was squawking in frustration. Despite several attempts, she hadn't been able to get through to Tanaka. Kajiwara's phone rang and he pulled it from his pocket. Kano? What's going on? He headed into one corner as he spoke into the receiver. I suppose it'd be alright? What for, though? After a few more quiet words, Kajiwara held his phone out to Osawa. One of the investigators on the scene would like to speak with you. Frowning in confusion, Osawa took hold of the phone. Osawa speaking. Can I help you? This is Detective Kano from the Shibuya precinct. Time is critical, so I need to just cut to the chase here. There was a pause as the speaker took a deep breath before continuing. Did you give the antiviral drug to your daughter Hitomi? What? Osawa was so startled that his voice caught in his throat. What are you talking about? The antiviral research was top secret, so how did this detective from the Shibuya precinct know about it? Well, that's a jump point. Osawa was bewildered. I'm the one asking the questions here, Mr. Osawa. Did you give the antiviral drug to your daughter Hitomi? I'm not sure I understand the question. I know what the syndicate is really after, Mr. Osawa. Osawa's mind went blank when he heard what Kano said next. He could give no reply. Mr. Osawa? The detective continued after a moment. Is everything all right? Without really thinking, Osawa hung up. They were after the virus? Did he mean the UA virus kept at the lab? Ooh? Wait, hold on. The detective had to be wrong about that. The kidnappers must have the UA virus already. Otherwise I wouldn't have to do what I did to Hitomi. Do not look away. These are your crimes. At last, Osawa understood what those emails from A were all about. They were a preview of the tragedy that was yet to unfold. The kidnappers probably meant to start the main event soon. It might already be too late to stop them. Mr. Osawa, Kajiwara asked, are you alright? The detective gazed with concern into Osawa's ashen face. Bracing himself, Osawa spoke up, his voice hoarse and dry. A killer virus is about to be unleashed in Tokyo, and I know who's responsible. It's me. The sudden confession caused the detectives on site to stir like a hornet nest. Please arrest me. Feeling the weight of his crimes crushing down on him, Osawa dropped his gaze to the floor. He held out both his wrists. I'll tell you everything down at the station, he said. Anything you need to know. Osawa imagined bodies dropping left and right. There were limits to what might be cured by the small stockpile of antiviral his lab currently contained. If they were unable to quarantine the infected in time, then Shibuya, no, all of Japan might be engulfed in a pandemic that the drug could never stop. In case you're unaware, a pandemic is a massive outbreak of a particular infection on a regional or global scale. In the 14th century Europe, a massive cholera outbreak is said to have killed 2/3 of the population, and the Spanish flu outbreak in the early 20th century killed at least 25 million people worldwide. Given modern advances in transportation, some researchers are of the opinion that the global risk of a pandemic is higher than ever before. He could only hope that his complying with the authorities might help stop the spread of the infection before it was too late. Ooh, video. Okay, I'm not really sure how the plane explosion works in. I guess that's some sort of a metaphor. Sure. The thought of the Ua virus devastating Japan filled Osawa with despair. Blaming himself, he asked to be arrested, but this only happened because of what Kano said to him. A simple error in word choice led Osawa to completely the wrong conclusion. Kano ought to properly inform Osawa just what the kidnappers are after. Ah, alright. So that ending requires us being in a different timeline. Well, let's go see if we can stop that. They nuked Japan to stop the virus. I see. Cannon. Kano mattered. What's cannon? A stench of blood hung heavy in the basement bar. Oh, that's right, he found all the dead bodies. Stanley was silent, staring at the criminal's corpse. I'm not sure. I mean, that was probably definitely the implication, Fickle Muse, but I think it's more. That's not what happened so much as that was what he was expecting to happen. Like, they said in his mind he saw these bodies dropping on, like, left and right. So I think it's just more of his brain leapt to that conclusion. Worst case scenario and all that. But, yeah, that was unexpected. Hey, do you know anything about this? Kano asked. Oh, right. He's with the FBI guy who now we know is dangerous for some reason. Still, Stanley gave no response. The silent treatment again, huh? Kano huffed. The American glanced at him gravely. In all likelihood, the one who did this was acting alone. Alone? Against this many people? Oh, right, because okay. I have a better idea what's going on now. Who on earth? There's no need for you to know. Cut the crap, Kano snapped. He grabbed Stanley by the collar. There's someone involved in this case who's capable of something like this. I need to know about it. How am I supposed to do my job if you keep me in the dark? Stanley remained stone-faced. Look, I'm not afraid of the risks, Kano said, and I'll be a lot more effective if you at least fill me in on the basics here. The more you know, the sooner you'll wind up dead. Kano changed his grip. But it's okay if I wind up dead while I'm still in the dark, huh? Fine, Stanley said. I'll answer your first question. He brushed Kano's arm aside. Kanan is the name of a covert operative from the Middle East. Fun fact, in simple terms, this means a type of spy that infiltrates hostile territory to carry out various clandestine activities. I believe she's the one who killed these people here. The Middle East? A covert operative? Kano hadn't expected spycraft to be involved with this. Yes, she's an assassin, and a cryptanalysis specialist. Do you recall the massive jailbreak from the Abu Ghraib prison a while back? I don't. Fill me in, Yame. A prison in Iraq, west of Baghdad, under the Hussein government. It was an internment facility for political prisoners, but following the Iraq war, it was used by the U.S. Army to house prisoners of war. In April of 2004, photographs of detainees being tortured by U.S. soldiers were released, causing a massive scandal. President Bush later made the decision to have the facility demolished. Alright. Cannon was the one who provided the intel to the escapees to get out. Kano was at a loss for words. The case was suddenly starting to seem a whole lot more sinister. Whoever this Cannon was, she apparently killed nearly a dozen people with only a knife. She was clearly no one to trifle with. Just what kind of individual were they dealing with here? He could scarcely imagine. Once again, Kano surveyed the crime scene. Each of the murdered criminals had had his throat slit. From the look of the deep, clean cuts, the killer hadn't hesitated in the slightest. Okay. So then what connection does this Cannon have with the mastermind behind this kidnapping? If Cannon had killed all of the foreign syndicate members in this bar, did that mean she and the person behind the kidnapping were enemies? Or perhaps she and the kidnapper were working in concert, and she'd carried out these slayings as part of some plan to get rid of some loose ends. I believe I said I'd answer one question. Turning away, Stanley picked up a file from atop a nearby table. Apparently he wasn't in the sharing mood. Realizing that further questions would be pointless, Kano peered sidelong at the file as Stanley opened it. Inside was a detailed map of Shibuya. There were various routes marked with arrows and times. Really? That's the plan for the ransom relay. Kano was so excited he blurted his thoughts out loud. It appeared that the ultimate goal for the ransom was a condominium. The address and the time, 1420, were written in red ink. Kano put in an immediate call to the investigation task force to relay this information. Wait, how did they know that without, The final destination is Ground Hill, 405, in Hiru 534 Shibuya. Alright, Kuzu told him. We'll look into who owns the condo in question. You and Stanley head over there now. I'm sending backup to go with you. You have authorization to apprehend the suspect. Finally hearing the order that he'd so long been waiting for, Kano felt a spark of determination flare inside him. Alright, let's go, he said, some of his excitement slipping into his voice. Stanley, still solemn, closed the file and followed him out of the bar. Oh, you're gonna end up dead again. Stanley drove along Inokashira Dori toward Hiru, where the finish line for the ransom relay was located. His demeanor was cold and brooding, in sharp contrast with Kano's gun-ho readiness. He seemed lost in some deep and cheerless thought. Kuzu's voice came in over the wireless as the car came out onto Meijidori. We've identified the owner of the condominium. It's... Kano held his breath in anticipation. The name Kuze spoke caught him by surprise entirely. Oh, keep out section. I mean, I guess we knew that was coming. Alright, we're still missing Minorikawa. So the keep out sections are, in order to get into them, you need to play in another timeline and find a jump point, which we haven't done. We found jump points they're the names of characters underlined in red. We've found them so far, but I haven't used any of them yet. No! Why am I screaming? I can't remember what he was up to. Something about writing something. Minorikawa's cry of despair echoed throughout the cafe. His laptop monitor stared back at him, black and empty. All right, his computer is broken all of a sudden. Don't you die on me, buddy! He jabbed his fingers sharply at the screen. But the computer gave no response, looking well and truly dead. What the hell? Minorikawa pounded his fist on the table. This would be a worst-case scenario, even if you weren't desperately pressed for time. Guess I'll just have to write by hand, then. He rummaged around inside his bag and pulled out a notebook. I can still do this, he shouted, doing his best to psych himself up for the task ahead. I will still do this. Excuse me, sir. The waitress appeared timidly beside him. What? Minorikawa snapped, his pen still flying across the paper. Sir, if you could please quiet down. My damn computer just broke. I'm allowed a scream or two. Minorikawa was in no state of mind to be quiet. If it weren't for the deadline he was racing to meet, he'd probably have gone on screaming until he passed out. Your computer is broken, you say? The waitress peered at the monitor. Yeah, look. It just suddenly stopped displaying anything. Could it be that, the battery's just dead? Minorikawa sat bolt upright. That's it? The waitress flinched as Minorikawa's finger jabbed toward her face. I hadn't considered that possibility. Let me plug in somewhere. There's an outlet right there, sir. She pointed an outlet by Minoru's feet, making no attempt to hide her exasperation. Minoru plugged into the monitor cable. The power cable and the monitor sprang to life as normal. So, now that that's been sorted, would you please be quiet, sir? Don't talk to me. You're interfering with my writing. Minoru's fingers had already begun dancing across the keyboard. With a sigh, the waitress disappeared back into the kitchen. Oh yeah, now we're talking. His fingers picked up speed as he went about touch typing. Touch typing. The act of typing at a keyboard without looking at the keys. The aspiration of computer novices everywhere. The typical method involves placing the index fingers on the F and J keys, with the middle ring and pinky fingers resting on the A, S, and D, or K, L, and the other things that I've forgotten names of, quotations, keys to either side, from which all other keys are easily reached. With practice, a touch typist can instinctively hit the correct key every time without looking. The pros and cons of surveillance cameras. Proprietor of outdated electronics shop oversees high-tech camera system. Bed limit bogus weight loss drink sales demo. Bankrupted organizer remains undiscouraged. Now Minoru's spirits were riding high. His writing rolled along at a brisk pace. Sir? It was the waitress again, her voice yanking Minoru right out of his soaring mood. Sir? Now what? Has the President of the United States agreed to give me a one-on-one interview? The waitress' eyes went wide with confusion. Huh? Because unless it's something that important, do not speak to me right now. But she was undeterred. Sir, please, if you could just be a little quieter. Minoru's fingers ceased the rattling across the keys. Just what sound do you have a problem with? All I've been doing is writing a copy. Well, for the last while, actually, you've been talking while you write, sir. Talking? Minoru tilted his head in confusion. Yes, sir, you've been talking about an electronics store and some bogus weight loss drink. I assume that's what you're writing about? You're saying I've been narrating my copy aloud while writing it? That's right, sir. Other customers sitting nearby were openly snickering. Well, so what? He snapped. He was red in the face now. You should all be delighted that you get to hear what I'm writing before the magazine goes to print. Well, actually, sir, one of our customers has been complaining. Complaining? Of all that nerve. Who was it? Where are they? Minoru scanned the other patrons, many of whom were unsuccessfully trying to hide their laughter. It was me. Ah, yes, grumpy old father-in-law. It was the grumpy older fellow who'd been making a scene earlier. Bogus diet fads, peeping security cameras. Reminds me of that sleazy tabloid 4-star general gossip I hate so much. Oh ho, you sure seem to know a lot about it for something you hate so much. The man's face twisted up with scorn. Your behavior is bothering everyone in here, he said. Do you not understand that? No, I don't. Guess a reporter who writes nothing but nonsense prefers nonsense in everything he does. Minoru could feel his blood boiling. What was that? Go on, say that again. Oh, gladly. Nonsense, filth, codswallop, flim-flam! You bastard, how dare you? Minoru stormed over to the man's tail. Flim-flam indeed! Fun fact, flim-flam is bogus or insincere content. Few things anger Minoru more than reporters using dishonest means to create a story. Having his own work called flim-flam would naturally make him blow his top. Just who are you calling flim-flam? The other man stood up and glowered in Minoru's face. You utterly lack any manners or sense of decency for starters. I have plenty of manners and decency. I also happen to have a deadline. Bah, as if a flim-flam artist like you has a work ethic. Stop calling me flim-flam. The waitress inserted herself between the two men. Gentlemen, please, stop fighting. I demand that you remove this man at once, the elder fellow barked. He's the one you should be kicking out, Minoru shot back. But now he was ready to go for this guy's throat. Please, the waitress pleaded. Both of you, return to your seats. She grabbed onto Minoru and began to forcibly drag him back to his table. Let's see. Oh, it's too late for that. Giving into his anger, Minarakawa threw a punch at the troublemaker. Okay, just calm down. Minarakawa did his best to swallow his pride. Come on, dude. You've got a deadline to meet. Okay, just calm down. Swallow your pride. Whatever, he huffed. I don't have time for this anyway. He stalked back to his seat. The other man snorted and sat down with a scowl. The needless interruption, just when he'd finally gotten into writing mode, had all but killed Minarakawa's motivation. He decided he needed to take a breather. He turned to the waitress. By that, I mean he pointed a hand at her and didn't look at her. 1 spaghetti Napolitan, please. Spaghetti flavored with tomato ketchup, Napolitan, is a corruption of Neapolitan, though the dish itself has no connection to the Italian city of Napoli, rather. It originated as a menu item at a hotel in Yokohama shortly after World War II. There's also a spaghetti dish from Nagoya called Milanese, which likewise has no connection to the Italian city Milan. He might not have a lot of spare time, but working on an empty stomach wouldn't do him any favors. While waiting for his order to come out, he decided to read back over the copy he'd written so far. What? When he looked back at the monitor, the screen was black yet again. Looking down at his feet, he saw that the power cable was now unplugged. Hey, what kind of cafe are you people running in here? He shouted. The waitress hurried over, looking combative. Sir, you yanked that out yourself when you stood up earlier. What? A likely story. It's the truth, sir. Minarakawa pointed at one of the customers sitting next to him. Is she telling the truth? Did I really yank my power cord out myself? The man nodded sheepishly. Yeah, well, then that's the outlet's fault for being someplace where it unplugs so easily, Minarakawa squawked. The waitress marched away, head held high. Just make sure that spaghetti's delicious, Minarakawa shouted after her. Do that and I'll consider us even. Oh, and load it with cheese. Lots of cheese. He plugged the power cable back in and let out a heavy sigh. In all his writing fever, he hadn't thought to save his work. Fun fact, he used to have to save all the time because saving autosaves were not a thing. Always make sure to save your work to avoid losing data. Honestly, why is it that your computer only seems to freeze when you've forgotten to save your stuff? He was probably going to have to rewrite most of what he'd done. Excuse me. Minarakawa looked up to see a young woman standing there. I'm so sorry, she said. About my father. She gave a tiny bow. Your father? Oh, the rude old man. He's just a little worked up right now. Please don't pay him any mind. Thank you for this save reminder game. I did actually need it. So what? You waiting on your boyfriend? Huh? The woman was taken aback. I happened to hear you two arguing earlier. Would have been about 2 hours ago? Oh, I see. An awkward, embarrassed smile came to the woman's face. I thought he was going to ask my father for permission to marry me, so we've been waiting for him, but he hasn't shown up? No, he must be really busy. She cast her eyes down sadly. Minarakawa took a better look at her. She was gorgeous. A woman with her looks wasn't something he saw every day, that was for sure. Say, would you mind talking with me for a bit, he asked. Me? Yeah, kinda need to turn my mood around. Well, okay, at least until my father gets back. The woman cast an anxious look toward the restrooms. What's your name? Rumi? She sat down across from him. Wait a second, aren't you? Minarakawa peered at Rumi's face. One of those twins that was chosen as Miss Midoriyama? Rumi shook her head. No, not me. No? Darn. Didn't think I'd be that lucky. He took a sip of his now cold coffee. I do get the girls you're talking about, though, Rumi said. Whoa. Narakawa spat out his coffee in surprise. Rumi squeaked in alarm as the spray splattered her face. But Minorikawa leaned in unconcerned. You mean it? You really know them? Yes, Rumi replied. You're talking about the Osawa twins, right? She got out a handkerchief and wiped the coffee from her face as she spoke. Osawa, huh? Minorikawa glanced down at the project proposal on the table. Sexy squared. Twins share top prize at local university beauty contest. Midoriyama Academy, Maria and Hitomi Osawa. Yes, that's it. The Osawa twins. I actually won Miss Midoriyama myself a few years ago. This year I served as one of the judges. Minorikawa adopted a self-satisfied pose. Guess I really was born under the right sign to be a freelancer. The leads just come to me. Sure, Rumi muttered. Alright, let's talk basics then. Tell me what you know about these girls. Well, I don't really know them personally. Rumi continued to dab at the coffee on her face. But now that you ask, I do remember hearing that they'd entered the contest separately. Wait, separately? Now Minorikawa was a bit confused. Yes, that's right. I'd assumed they'd entered as a pair, but apparently not. I wonder why. I mean, they're twins. Don't they look alike? Wear the same clothes? Do everything together? Some kind of idea of that twins actually do all that? And say the same things at the same time and stuff? Rumi chuckled and shook her head. No, not at all. Besides, those two aren't identical. They're fraternal twins, which, if you're unaware, are twins who were born at the same time from two eggs that were fertilized separately. Fraternal twins do not share the same genetic information. They can differ in such characteristics as sex and blood type, though there are cases of fraternal twins resembling one another almost as closely as identical twins. Maria and Hitomi Osawa happen to look very closely alike, but they do not have the same blood type. Although at a glance they do look very similar, still, how should I put this? They both give off a very different impression. Oh? Now that sounds interesting. Mind explaining what you mean? Minorikawa opened his memo pad. I talked to them briefly after the awards ceremony. The older sister struck me as really energetic, but the younger one was more quiet and reserved. Minorikawa's investigative senses were tingling. I wouldn't figure a shy girl would want to enter a campus beauty contest. I suppose not, no? Yeah. I don't suppose you got anything juicier, Minorikawa asked. Rumi frowned. Would you like to just go ask them yourself, she said. They don't live very far from here. Whoa, hold the phone. Minorikawa could hardly believe what had just fallen into his lap. The advanced info in the project proposal had mentioned the girls were students at Midoriyama, but he hadn't given an actual address. If he could talk to them directly, now that would be pay dirt. You know where they live? Well, not exactly. I just heard that they lived in Shoto. Aha! Shoto! That wasn't far away. A car or motorcycle would get there in about 10 minutes. It'd be quicker than going to Midoriyama Academy, and he'd be able to meet with the girls themselves. Minorikawa flashed a quick look toward the restroom. It looked like Rumi's father had just gotten back. Sorry, she said. I should be going. No problem, and thank you. Rumi gave him a quick nod and hurried back to her seat. Okay. Minorikawa grabbed the directory from the public phone and flipped through the pages. To his surprise, there were only 5 listings for the name Osawa with addresses in Shoto. There were neither a Maria nor a Hitomi, but he hadn't expected them to be. He'd need to find their parents. Wasting no time, he called up the first Osawa on the list. Ah! That's who was phoning. Okay, this makes sense. Bingo! Minorikawa couldn't help but pump his fist in excitement. He'd gotten the right place on his first try. Way to go, me! He committed the house number list in the phone book to memory. Just then the waitress reappeared with a disgruntled expression, and Minorikawa's order of spaghetti Napolitan. Here you are, sir. I mean, that does look pretty good. Oh ho! The pasta was piled high with an impressive mound of grated cheese. It looked almost like a miniature mountain of snow. You did say lots of cheese, sir, the waitress told him. She set down a canister of cheese and a bottle of Tabasco. Tabasco, a sauce made by the US-based McIlhenny Company, consisting of hot peppers, grain vinegar, and rock salt. Known for its distinctive spiciness, it can make spaghetti and pizza quite tasty with the addition of just a few drops. Tabasco also goes pretty well with ramen and curry. Recommended for times when flavor is lacking a little punch. However, even one drop may be too much for those who can't handle spicy things. It has been claimed that Tabasco was first imported to Japan by a certain well-known former pro wrestler, but this story is untrue. Oh, this looks good, Minorikawa exclaimed. He twirled some spaghetti up with his fork and shoved it into his mouth. The slightly sour sweetness of the ketchup blended perfectly with the mellow flavor of the cheese. Oh, that is tasty. There was nothing like satisfying grub to lift the spirits. He turned back to his laptop, still wolfing down the spaghetti. Alright, we're back in action. Let's do this! Hey, Luminaire P, thank you for that raid. How you doing? What were you playing? It's a very cute emote. Oh, working through the Zelda canon. Nice. Ocarina of Time. Classic. I mean, I guess half of them are now. Alright. Yet again, he unthinkingly blurted his words aloud as he slipped back into writing mode. I've got this. I've got this. How many years until a Zelda game hits classic? I mean, Ocarina of Time's a classic for me. It was my first Zelda, so... With ketchup smeared around his mouth, he set his fingers tapping away at the keys. The waitress let out another groan of dismay. Huh? You say something? Oh, wow, that picture. Minorikawa glanced at her direction, but the waitress faked a smile. No, sir, I don't think so. Yeah, well then go away. You're distracting me. The way he looked away, she clenched her fist in indignation. Nothing, sir. Good luck with your work, sir. I don't need luck. I've got this. Eyes jumping back and forth between pasta and computer, Minorikawa got to work on his copy once more. Before long, he was oblivious to every sound in the cafe around him. I love the service workers they've been showing in this game so far. Hey, Alexia! When he finally snapped out of writing mode, he glanced at his watch. It was 2:20. Almost time for him to head to his next interview. Better get a move on. Kimizuki's taxi came by just as Minorikawa was hurrying out of the cafe. Well, what a pleasant surprise, Minorikawa called out. Nice timing, my man. Kimizuki's startled look quickly vanished behind an expression of professional resignation. Do you need a ride, sir? You know it, Minorikawa replied. First, head to Shoto. After that, I'll need to get to Sakura Gaoka. As he cast his gaze out of the sights of the city, Minorikawa mulled over his plan for the next part of the day. First, he'd interview the Miss Midoriyama girls. Then he'd meet with the head of that theater troupe. In order to leave himself enough time to write his copy, that meant... I'd like to get this all wrapped up in 20 minutes, he said. Can you make that happen? Kimizuka flashed a grin. That will incur special fare, sir. Ooh, special, Minorikawa said as he got settled in his seat. I love that word. Kimizuka stepped on the gas. Shibuya was a town of contrasts. It was a town of young people, unpretentious, energetic. The Scramble intersection and Center Guy perfectly conveyed that vibrancy. However, if one turned right at the 109 building and headed down Bunkamura Dori, the town's whole atmosphere changed. Shoto was one of Shibuya's, indeed, one of Tokyo's, most upscale residential districts. Wherever one looked, there were stately manor houses giving off an imposing air, sending the message that this was no place for the common folk. Right, here's fine. Minorikawa directed Kimitsuka to pull over. Wait here for me. I'll be right back. Hopping out of the taxi, he checked the nameplates of the nearby homes. Ah, here we go. He'd spotted a nameplate that read Osawa. Kenji Osawa, huh? The name nagged at him somehow. Been in the back of his mind ever since he'd seen it in the phone book back at the cafe. Had he heard it someplace before? He walked up to the gate and pressed the button for the intercom. Even the little chime it made when pressed sounded elegant. Until he repeatedly pressed it a million times. Minorikawa waited, but there was no response. He looked at his watch. It was 2:30 now. His interview with Shinosuke Oerai of the Wandering Angels was supposed to have started already. Episode 3 of Wandering Angels. With the help from Shinichi Bando, Mondo was able to get out of his apartment. Then when all the players had finally assembled, the troupe proceeded with one last rehearsal before showtime. But again, tragedy struck. Mondo came down with food poisoning after eating his lunch. He was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, and the Angels were once again lacking an actor for the key role of Shido. Orai was on the verge of panic. Finally, however, he came up with a solution. Novice actor Takia Amo, age 31, would take on the part. Continued in episode 4. Still, he wanted to meet with the twins first if it was possible. He had to make a choice. Wait a bit longer? Just 5 more minutes. The front door opened. A grim-looking man emerged, leading another man in handcuffs. Minorikawa was standing in their way. Pardon us, the serious-looking fellow said. He gave Minorikawa a curt bow as he passed by. Minorikawa smelled the distinct odor of a scoop. Hey, does that guy live here? He asked. The man ignored him and kept moving. But Minorikawa followed. He couldn't let this opportunity pass him by. Hey, wait up. Is this Mr. Osawa? With a grimace, the man pushed Minorikawa aside and hurried, his handcuffed prisoner along. For a moment, Minorikawa wondered if he should keep after them, but he decided against it. Whatever was going on here, he doubted he'd be able to get an interview with the twin girls right now. This had all been an unfortunate waste of time. He had no real choice but to head along to his next interview. I hope wasting my time like that doesn't lead me to a bad end. A few minutes later, the rear tires skidded sharply at the cab as the cab came to a stop beside a different curb. The trip from Shoto to the theater in Sakuragaka had taken almost no time at all. Here we are, sir, Kimitsuki announced. Wow, that was fast. Still, Minorikawa was at least 5 minutes behind schedule. He'd hoped he'd still be able to get the interview with Orai. Ah, keep out. Alright. Ambitious Sloth, hey, thank you for that resub. Welcome back. Okay, I think everyone is... Yeah, you're on a bad end. Yeah, Maria we got all the way out. I think everybody else is on keep out. So... what's the jump here? Sure, let's do the jump here. I think it was in the note. Yeah. Here we are. Kuzui's voice came in over the wireless as the car came out onto Meijidori. I've identified the owner of the condominium. It's Mamoru Tanaka. He's a colleague of Kenji Osawa. What? Kano squawked. But this was an unexpected twist. Kajiwara confirms that Tanaka left the Osawa residence at just after 1400 hours. No word on his movements since then. It's possible he headed to his private condo where the attaché case is slated to end up. Any officer who runs across Tanaka is to apprehend him on sight. Kuzei cut the connection. This mastermind you've been chasing? Kano asked. Is it Tanaka? Stanley didn't reply. Fine, never mind. Just wish I could know if Tenno is safe. Still worried about that traitor, huh? So Stanley could ignore all of his questions, but still remember to make snide remarks. K Raccoon, hey, thank you for that 18-month resub. Twitch is letting me celebrate 18 months again. That is true. Twitch enabled cumulative sub months, so even if you have to not sub for a month, you can still keep your streak going. And because of that, basically everybody gets to have the ability to redo their thing. I'm super glad that that's finally active, because I think they talked about that feature like months ago now. Talking about Tenno's the only thing that gets a reaction out of you, isn't it? Kano snorted. What makes you so certain that he can't be a traitor? Tenno just isn't like that. That's not an answer, Stanley scoffed. Alright, I've watched the man work for years. I know him. He has no reason to betray the Force. You've watched him, huh? What about his private life, then? You know all about that, too? He hasn't had money trouble or anything like that? Kano felt his blood starting to boil. I don't care what you think, he said. I trust Detective Tenno. Trust him? On what basis? I don't need any basis to have faith in someone, Kano snapped. Without any basis, in fact, it's just plain sentimentality, Stanley said. There's no reason or logic to it. Then a smile came to his face. Be they friends or family, you can never really know other people. The only other person you can trust is yourself. Kano had no response for such an emotionless statement. He looked away. He and Stanley were just plain incompatible. It seemed like no amount of talking would let them get through to one another. Never take anything at face value, Kano. You start trusting too much, you're basically as good as dead. Kano just stared out the window. The Shibuya precinct came into view. Tanaka's condo wasn't much further now. They were outside of Tanaka's condo now. Over there, Stanley said, keeping his voice down. Across the street was one of the foreign syndicate members, walking briskly, the attaché case clutched at his side. I'm making the arrest. Kano, wait! Stanley exclaimed. Kano heard him loud and clear, but he had no intention of stopping. He approached with the criminal at full speed, and then leapt to tackle him to the waist. Around the waist. The two men fell to the pavement in a tangled heap. The collision sent the attaché case flying. Kano's eyes tracked the case for a moment too long. He was caught off guard when the man threw a punch at him. The blow caught him right in the jaw, snapping his head back. For a moment, Kano saw stars as he shook off the impact. The man sprang to his feet and sprinted away in the direction of Stanley's car. Stanley! Kano shouted. I mean, the case is on the ground and it's probably empty, so grab him? But Stanley ignored the man and instead went for the attaché case. Oh, come on, really? Kano had no choice but to pursue the perp himself. He hadn't come this far just to let the crooks get away now. Suddenly, the fleeing man skidded to a stop. Several cars had pulled across the road ahead, and detectives were pouring out of them. His escape route cut off, the criminal resigned himself to capture. While Kano helped him make the arrest, several of the other detectives broke into Tanaka's condo. Stanley, meanwhile, was carefully inspecting the exterior of the attaché case. He'd already opened it. It was stuffed with bundles of banknotes. The 50 million yen ransom was back in police hands. This is a decoy, the American muttered under his breath. I wonder where. His words trailed off, but Kano had heard them. What did you expect? The detective demanded. Samples of the new drug in there? As usual, Stanley gave no reply. The look on his face, however, told Kano he'd been right on the mark. Some of the backup team emerged from Tanaka's condo. Kano turned to them, feeling a sudden surge of anxiety for Maria. What's the situation in there, he asked. They told him that they'd found no one in Tanaka's rooms, so the hostage's status remained unknown, and the main culprit had evaded capture. This case hadn't been solved. In fact, it was still unfolding in the worst way conceivable. And still, Stanley remained focused on the attaché case, pondering it with a thoughtful expression. Look, Kano told him, I'm going to request that I be returned to my normal duties. Maria still needs to be rescued, and I still need to find out what happened to Hitomi and Detective Tatano. For once, Stanley actually responded. Hitomi? Yes, that's it. It makes perfect sense that they'd have her carry it. Huh? What do you mean? This whole attaché case relay was a fake-out. Whoa, slow down, Kano said, wishing he could calm himself with his words. Explain what you're talking about. Somehow, the kidnappers made contact with Kenji Osawa, and got him to have Hitomi carry the drug, separate from the ransom. Wait, you're saying that he had Hitomi bring them the drug? Stanley nodded. The case handoffs were a sort of camouflage, a way for them to keep the police distracted from their real goal. Kano nodded. It indeed felt like the case relay was a decoy, an attempt to buy time. If the syndicate were after something else entirely, that would explain why so many of their actions had appeared to make no sense. So, Kano asked, what sort of drug is this? Why would they go to such lengths to get their hands on it? It's an antiviral, Stanley replied after some hesitation. A way to cure people infected with a very particular virus. What virus are we talking about? It's called Uo. Yeah, it's totally in that red necklace that Maria has. Kano never heard of it. Still, he could imagine the possibilities. Suppose this Uo virus was something like the Ebola virus, which was discovered in Sudan in 1976. Infection causes Ebola fevers, and it's a really nasty disease, so I don't want to really read about it. Or perhaps HIV, which is also an awful thing. Even the all too familiar flu. There were medicines that could treat all of these diseases, but nothing that could cure them completely. Any drug that would do that would be worth vast sums of money. Kano, do you have any means of getting in touch with Mr. Osawa? Yes, I know one of the detectives stationed at his home. Check in with him ASAP. Find out whether or not he gave the antiviral to Hitomi. Kano suppressed a scowl, but it looked like he wasn't done assisting Stanley yet. He got out his cell phone and dialed up Kajiwara. Right, this was the thing where if we word it wrong, we get a bad end. Kajiwara picked up promptly. Kano, what's going on? Could I speak with Mr. Osawa? I suppose that'd be alright. What for, though? There's something I need to confirm for me. It's an emergency. Alright, just make sure not to tell him anything about the investigation. Sure. After a while, a man's hoarse voice came over the line. Osawa speaking. Can I help you? This is Detective Kano from the Shibuya precinct. Time's critical, so I need to just cut to the chase here. Kano took a deep breath. Okay, I'm not getting a choice to say this in a different way, so I let out a gasp. Oh, really? Okay. Wasn't expecting another keep out. Alright. No jumps there. That will let me jump to Achi, I think. Here we go, it's probably this one. Yeah, it's on the phone. Did you give the antiviral drug to your daughter? I guess. What are you talking about? I'm the one asking the questions here, Mr. Osawa. Did you give the antiviral drug to your daughter? I'm not sure I understand the question. Sawa's voice trembled as he spoke. Ken was sure he'd hit the nail right on the head. I know what the Syndicate is really after. In the other timeline, we said it was the virus, right? I mean, they're really after not the virus, they're after the antivirus. So, after Hitomi? There's a jump point back, which is interesting. Osawa remains silent. Mr. Osawa? Everything alright? The line went dead. Guess that answers that well enough, Kano said as he put away his phone. Now it was clear why the criminals were after Hitomi. He saw an uneasy look on Stanley's face. Something on your mind, Kano asked. Stanley responded with a question of his own. If Hitomi was carrying the antiviral, how were the criminals planning on getting it from her? Kano thought for a moment. While taking her by force to the scramble posed too high a risk, he said. There were nearly 100 detectives there, and they must have guessed there would be. That's why they devised the attaché case relay. They wanted to abduct Hitomi somewhere safe, away from the Dragnet's notice. This was the plan that all the signs seemed to suggest. But still, he added, I wonder how they managed to lead her away from the police protection. A look of revelation crossed Stanley's face. All they need to do was convince her to go of her own accord. But how, Kano asked. And then it came to him. He thought back to Hitomi's initial contact with Tariq al-Karawan. Just before he'd taken the attaché case from her, the two had had a brief conversation. It was possible al-Karawan had given Hitomi some form of instructions then. Guess we're back to tracking down al-Karawan again, huh? Kano could tell from the look in Stanley's eyes that he was on the verge of saying something. Probably some remark about how Tatano had allowed al-Karawan to run free. Right now, Kano wasn't going to argue the point. After this case was resolved, he'd discover what Tatano's real motives were. And once he did, Stanley would eat his words in the meantime. We can't just wander around looking without any leads. Until we get more intel, let's see what we can do with the security cameras back at the precinct. Numerous monitors shone down on the pair as they entered the Shibuya precinct's surveillance room. Each showed an array of faces of individuals, somewhere in Shibuya. Kano asked one of the operators to pull up al-Karawan's data on the screen. By selecting each of the faces on the monitors in turn, they could run comparisons to determine if anyone among them was al-Karawan. One by one, the operator made his way through the faces. Assuming their target was still in Shibuya, there was a high likelihood they'd find him. But the minutes ticked past and there was still no sign of him. Kano's tone grew more and more impatient as he directed the operator's search. Just calm down, Stanley said. He set a hand on Kano's shoulder. You keep wasting your energy when you don't need to. That's just how I do things, Kano replied. I'm energetic because I care. He pointed out another face to the operator. Well, you're setting yourself up for a short life. With a sigh, Stanley sank into a nearby chair. My brother was like you. The American spoke so quietly that his words were barely audible. 10 minutes later, a man clad in black appeared on one of the monitors. The operator lined up his cursor. The comparison check confirmed that it was al-Karawan. Yes, Kano hissed, pumping his fist. It appeared that their quarry was simply walking around town, calm and composed. Kano radioed in al-Karawan's location to Kuze. All units, intercept the suspect on the double, Kuze ordered. Kano will provide guidance using the surveillance monitors. They saw al-Karawan stop in front of a cigarette vending machine. Was he waiting for someone? Sasayama reporting. I've got eyes on the Mutt. Mutt is a perpetrator. Hook, to put someone in cuffs. Dipper, pickpocket. Wants, outstanding warrants. Hang paper, to write multiple citations, and other such traditional police jargon. Kano's partner had evidently been nearby. I'm making the arrest, he said. There was a note of courage in Sasayama's voice. He came into view on the monitor walking casually. At some point, he ditched his anime nerd costume for a street dancer's getup. It didn't appear that Alcarawan had noticed him yet. Bit by bit, Sasayama closed the distance. Not much further now. Kano's hand balled into a fist as he watched, and then something unexpected happened. Another man came running into view right in the middle of the monitor. This man was Teruo Toyama. While searching for Hana at Shibuya Jijo, he was located by a duo of debt collectors and fled the scene. Hana left Chigo to find him and ran into him here in Maruyamacho. The pair are heading toward Koendori, trying to find a place to hide. There was no sound, but they could see the newcomer was shouting something. As Alcarawan turned to look at the man, Sasayama launched himself like a bullet from a gun. In an instant, the detective and Perp were locked in a violent scuffle right there on the street. Kano swallowed a lump in his throat as he watched the struggle unfold. Earlier in the day, Alcarawan had done a number on Sasayama, but this time the detective had the upper hand. He got a grip on Alcarawan's neck and kneed him repeatedly. Alcarawan tried desperately to bring Sasayama to the ground, but Sasayama braced himself and avoided the takedown. Then he shifted his stance and took Alcarawan to the pavement with a spectacular hip throw. Yes! Kano clapped his hands together in excitement. Catching the Perp in a scarf hold, Sasayama got out his handcuffs. Scarf hold. It's a technique in judo. Involves wrapping an arm around the opponent's neck while performing an upper body pin. Neat. Stanley, we should head to the scene, Kano said. He looked away from the monitor for a mere moment, and when he looked back, Sasayama had released his hold and crumpled to the ground. What? Panicked, Kano stared at the image of his friend. There was something jutting out from... Whoa. Well, then. There was something jutting out from Sasayama's abdomen. Zoom in, Kano cried frantically. What, you can't tell? The camera closed in on Sasayama. Now Kano could see exactly what he'd feared. Sasayama had been stabbed in the gut. Blood pooled on the pavement around him. Kano screamed, Sasayama! The camera showed several other detectives arriving on the scene, capturing Alcarawan before he could escape. But Sasayama lay motionless. The pool of blood around him spread further and further across the pavement. Unable to look any longer, Kano rushed from the surveillance room. That's not a bad end. Alright. Well then. Okay, that did take out the bad end from Osawa, though. So we still have to finish his timeline. Maria's still good. We would keep out on Achi still. That was weird. I hope he does fine. Syndicate is really after. So his mind went blank when he heard what Kano said next. He could give no reply. The detective continued after a moment. Is everything alright? Without really thinking, Osawa hung up. Osawa staggered out of the living room. He needed to be alone. To his surprise, Kajiwara didn't try to stop him. Shutting his study door behind him, he dropped onto the sofa, then grabbed 3 times his normal dosage of stomach pills. There was no water in the room, so he just swallowed them dry. Detective Kano's words echoed in his mind. I know what the syndicate is after, Mr. Misawa. It's Hitomi. There was only one reason they could be after Hitomi. He broke out into a cold sweat as he began to understand what this kidnapping was really about. It all started 6 days earlier. It was April 22nd. Osawa had just returned from the United States the day before. He was in the midst of some routing work at the General Research Lab when his cell phone rang. The LCD display showed an unlisted caller. With some hesitation, Osawa picked up. Hello? Is this Kenji Osawa? The caller was using a voice modulator. A voice modulator is a type of device or software used to make one's voice sound different. Changing a voice to the point of making a voice print or tone analysis impossible presents a major challenge. To be able to do so in real time requires major financial and technological resources. Osawa raised an eyebrow. Yes? Go and analyze Hitomi's blood. Her blood? If you don't, she's going to die. With that, the caller hung up. There was an intensity behind this that made Osawa sure it wasn't just some prank call. He had Hitomi come into the lab ASAP. He told Hitomi he wanted a sample of her blood for an experiment. She agreed, suspecting nothing. He placed some of the blood he'd drawn onto a glass slide, then added some fluorescein, a type of fluorescent dye. Fluorescein, a yellow-green liquid, a type of fluorescent dye chiefly used in preparing specimens for viewing under a fluorescent microscope, but it has other uses as well, such as diagnostic reagent administered in eye exams. Its highest volume use is on St. Patrick's Day, when massive amounts of fluorescein are used to dye the Chicago River green. Fun fact! Fluorescent dye, a type of dye that causes the dyed substance to emit higher wavelength fluorescent light when illuminated with a certain other type of light. Such dyes can reveal fine details when used on specimens viewing through a fluorescent microscope. Placing the slide under a fluorescent microscope, he took a look. It can't be. Osawa could hardly believe his eyes. Wriggling under the microscope was the Grim Reaper's sickle itself. There was no mistaking it. Hitomi was infected with the UA virus. Trembling, Osawa hurried to his computer. He opened the UA virus folder on his monitor. Within were images showing the stages of the virus's propagation. He double-clicked to magnify the first image. The Reaper's sickles were interlocked with one another. He clicked on the next image. After further propagation, the UA virus looked less like a sickle and more sort of an insectoid larva. Next was the final stage. Interlocked into a single mass, the UA virus vaguely resembled a sinister, many-petaled sunflower. It took a mere 12 hours for the pathogen to develop to this point and begin its hideous destruction of the human body. Hitomi's infection sample was still in the state shown in the first image. There was still a chance to save her. Osawa slumped back in his chair, huddling in on himself. He had no choice. There was only one way to save Hitomi. He would have to administer the nearly completed antiviral. Using the antiviral without official approval was a grievous violation of company policy, which, in case you're unaware, means acting against company rules and regulations. Okoshi Pharmaceutical prohibits leaking work-related information to outsiders. In the case of a major violation, not only can the violator be fired, but the company may also seek indemnities. How'd she even get infected? Well, she did go to the Middle East, if that's where they were doing the illegal research. Maybe she got in there. Still, Osawa didn't have time to get the higher-ups to approve a clinical trial. He might be punished severely for it, but this was his only option. His daughter's life was at stake. But there was also another, even bigger hurdle in his way. The antiviral drug was stored in the deepest recesses of the biochemical research building. A high-intensity X-ray scanner was set up at the entrance to the storage area. This made it impossible for him to take research materials out. X-ray, a type of radiation also referred to as Röntgen rays, with a shorter wavelength than UV light, but a longer wavelength than gamma rays. Because X-rays can penetrate many objects with little absorption or scattering, they can be used to create images of internal structures. Hospitals, for example, use X-ray technology to examine the insides of patients' bodies, while security personnel use it to scan luggage at airports and search for bombs. Well, if he couldn't get the antiviral out there, he'd just have to bring Hitomi in. A course of action quickly took shape in his mind. First, he'd need to slip out of the general research building. He would then head to the biochemical research facility and show his ID card to the guard at the front gate. ID cards? Those are identification cards. Many facilities that carry out highly classified research assign different levels of security clearance to individual researchers, and only those with suitable clearance, as indicated by their ID cards, are admitted to restricted areas. Development of more advanced technologies, such as electronic ID tags, are replacing older barcode-type entry cards. Whoa, hello. A little video. Gonna take a tour. I'm gonna go up this elevator. After passing through a lobby under the watchful gaze of several security cameras, he'd reach an elevator at the end of the hall that went directly to the storage section. This elevator required an ID card scan to operate. But then, you get inside the elevator. It would take about 20 seconds to get down to the first basement level and arrive at the entrance to the storage area. Finding an excuse to get Hitomi that far ought to be doable. If the security guard got suspicious, Osawa could say it was for a top-secret hematology experiment, and the guard would probably believe him. The problem was what came after. This hallway. You gotta go down it. And then there's this card scanner thing. It looks more like this than the thing. Getting into the storage area itself required fingerprint authentication for both Osawa and Tanaka. This meant that he couldn't possibly get to the antiviral without Tanaka's cooperation. Desperate with uncertainty, Osawa called up Tanaka. He frantically explained the situation. Understood, Tanaka replied. We need to get her this drug as soon as possible. If the company finds out about this, you'll be held accountable for violation of corporate policy along with me. Are you sure you're okay with that? What are you talking about? Hitomi's life is more important than company policy. Tanaka spoke without hesitation. Sawa felt an immense surge of gratitude for his assistant. And I have to say, I'm deeply moved by your determination, Tanaka added. Moved? Whatever for. You really are worried about Hitomi. Sawa's gratitude faded. What are you talking about? Of course I am. My apologies. It's just that putting your career on the line for something so personal is... It's what? It's not like me? No, well, yes. I'm sorry. Now Tanaka's voice was colored with embarrassment. Just what sort of person do you think I am? Osawa resisted the urge to ask the question out loud. A short time later, Osawa and Tanaka stood before the door to the secure storage area. The security guard had let them in without the slightest suspicion. Osawa pressed his index finger to the fingerprint scanner first. Accepted. He realized he'd been holding his breath as his authorization finally went through. Half a moment later, Tanaka touched his own finger to the scanner plate. Accepted. The lock released with an audible clang, and the heavy door opened. Osawa hurried to retrieve the antiviral. As he picked up a small vial, he had a sudden realization. They were finally going to use the drug in a human test. His fatherly wish to cure Hitomi was overlaid by an intense rush of curiosity, the researcher's drive to discover his results. Hurry. I need to hurry. I need to administer the antiviral as soon as possible. Osawa could hardly fend off his excitement. Over the course of the next few hours following the injection, the UA virus would be eradicated from Hitomi's body. There had been some fever and cramping as temporary side effects, but the DDS had done a spectacular job of stomping out the virus. Drug delivery system, also known as smart drug delivery, the ability to target a specific region of the body with a specific drug, has momentous implications for the future of medicine. DDS's technology is currently being tested extensively around the world. In saving his daughter's life, Osawa had proven the value of his research. If he had been asked which made him happier, he would have been hard-pressed to give an answer. Afterwards, he asked Hitomi where she could have become infected, but she had no idea. He explained the need for secrecy, and strictly forbade her from telling anyone else what had happened. Now a week had passed since Osawa gave the drug to Hitomi. He'd been conducting checks and had discovered that the DDS had not broken down, but remained in Hitomi's blood spring. Extracting the DDS was a simple matter, requiring just a small blood sample from around the nape of the neck. Nape of the neck. The DDS tends to linger in the nape of the neck because of the lymph nodes located there. These lymph nodes identify viruses that invade the body as foreign substances to be attacked, but they are not always able to overcome particularly powerful pathogens. In such cases, the virus propagates rapidly inside of them. Once the patient has been treated, the antiviral will seek out the virus and accumulate there as well. The DDS itself was simply the delivery system for the antiviral drug. Residual amounts of the antiviral itself stayed behind within the cells. The materials used to create the DDS must, as a matter of course, cause minimal or no harm to the human body. Ideally, rather than accumulate inside the body, DDS substances should be either digested, absorbed, or excreted. Because the antiviral must remain in the body for as long as the virus is active, however, a very careful balance must be struck between persistence and dissipation. Alright. Using the DDS it was possible to extract those minuscule amounts from cells in a blood sample. It might take considerable time, but a sufficiently detailed analysis could allow for the antiviral drug itself to be reconstructed. Ah. Interesting. Osawa felt a chill as he contemplated the situation. The kidnappers had known how tough security was at the lab, so they'd come up with the idea of using a human vessel to get what they needed from within. By infecting Hitomi with the UA virus, they'd ensured she'd receive the antiviral, that she'd have it in her blood. If Tanaka was working with the kidnappers, that explained why he'd been so cooperative about the fingerprint scanner. Damn it, Osawa shouted. He clutched his head in his hands. Tanaka had been his partner and trusted confidant for years. Osawa refused to believe he'd been betrayed like this. The front door chime sounded. Mr. Osawa, Kejiwara called out. It appears you have a visitor. Could you handle that? Interesting. Alright, new jump point. Who could it possibly be now of all times? Sure? Why not? Alright. With a sigh, Osawa dragged himself to his feet. He stumbled wearily back to the living room, where the investigators were staring at the intercom monitor with concern. The intercom's hidden camera showed a man with an unsettling grin posed intimidatingly outside the front gate. Osawa didn't recognize him. Yes. Who is it? He asked guardedly through the intercom. It's Minorikawa. Where might I know you from, Mr. Minorikawa? Oh, you know, here and there. I mean, there's only one Minorikawa, really. Are you playing games with me? I don't have time for that. Please, just open up. There's no way I'm letting you in, Osawa said. But the nonsensical badgering continued. Look, just hold your horses. I'm here for an interview. You got that? An interview? That's right. It's a piece for 4-Star General Gossip. The name of the magazine brought up an unpleasant memory. Ah, yes. That was the gossip rag that had run the article about his political marriage. Wait. This is for one of those kinds of articles? What do you mean, those kinds of articles? I'm just looking for an interview. The man's tone was both high-handed and belligerent. Like hell you are. I'm not talking to anyone from the gossip. You're not the one I'm here to talk to. I want to interview your twin daughters. My daughters. I understand they won a shared prize for a beauty contest at Midoriyama Academy. If you wouldn't mind my interviewing them, Furious, Osawa cut off the intercom. This was no time to be indulging someone else's nonsense. Hey, what gives? The man was shouting so loud his voice carried past the gate and through the front door. I'm begging you out there. Here, I'm on my hands and knees. He wasn't actually on his hands and knees. Osawa could see that clearly through the intercom monitor. If your daughters aren't home, can you at least tell them I want to get in touch with them? Mr. Osawa, Kajiwara said, frowning. This isn't a good time to have someone drawing attention to your home. Alright, I'll get rid of him. Osawa hurried out of the house, confronting Minorikawa through the front gate. The journalist had that tenacious look that immediately marked him as a member of the media. Give me your business card, Osawa said. I'll have them get in touch with you later. He took Minorikawa's card and then went right back inside. Back in his study, Osawa tossed Minorikawa's business card into the trash. Unable to think of what else to do, he tried the internet fortune teller again. You You're a very work-minded person, result a second time. If you don't get over your indifference to the world might start to harbor quite a grudge. My indifference to the world around me, huh? The truth was that even with his closest companions, even with Tanaka, for instance, his relationship had always been strictly a matter of business. He'd never really taken it upon himself to get to know Tanaka as a person, and that was pretty much the case for everyone he knew. He harbored no interest in other people. He had no concern for his fellow man. That had made itself abundantly clear when he received a microscope as a birthday present way back in first grade. Even now, he still remembered the shock he'd felt when he looked through the lens for the first time. He'd discovered a new, almost infinite world hidden in the midst of one he'd always thought was too small. By comparison, the real world seemed bland and ugly. Wherever he looked, wherever he went, he had to contend with tedium. It hadn't taken long for him to become more charmed by the world under his microscope than the one around him. It was like a calm, quiet little seaside, a beach where he could just sit and stare out at the waves. He wanted to stay immersed in that world forever and ever. Before he knew it, he was an adult, and then a husband, and then a father. The people around him thought him an odd fellow, but he hadn't let that change the way he lived his life. And this now was the result. He hadn't been betrayed by Tanaka. He didn't know Tanaka well enough for that. Find a way to connect more deeply with the people around you and start living a better life before it's too late. Just do that, and you'll be sure to have a wonderful future ahead. Osawa picked up his cell phone and dialed Tanaka's number. I had tried calling him repeatedly and hadn't gotten through. It was doubtful that he'd pick up. Still, Osawa had to try. The phone rang several times. He listened grimly to the empty mechanical sound, preparing himself for disappointment. "What is it?" Tanaka's voice sounded coldly in Osawa's ear. The tension was electric. Oh, really? So, how much do we have left to do? We've got a few keep-outs still. Alright, I think we're probably about halfway through this chapter. I'm gonna call it there for tonight, as my voice is starting to go a little. But we'll be doing more of this tomorrow, so that's not too long. I'm gonna try and get, if you need to go back and watch more of the previous game, again, you can find, I actually have a playlist of it up on the YouTubes. This one will get added, probably not by tomorrow, but by next week. I'm trying to keep the 428 ones up to date, just because they are so story intensive. Alright. And I should probably throw the Discord link in there too, for anyone who wants to join that. So yeah, our next stream's gonna be tomorrow, 6 p.m. Pacific time. We'll continue on with 428, probably finish this hour chapter, and if we can get further, we'll get further. I think we're going to raid Kate tonight. She's playing Apex Legends? That's a new fun game that everyone's playing, except for me, because I don't care. But it looks cool. Yeah, that's gonna do it for tonight. I will see you all tomorrow night, and thank you for joining. How do I raid again? It's, yeah, that. We're gonna go raid Kate, say hi to her, and yeah, that's just kind of it for tonight. You all take care, and I'll see you all later. Bye.